don't go there, right? We have like 4.
For your own use or?
No, we sell
Come on. That's the hardest part.
No.
I had one leave, you don't have to redo it. You know, until you look on all sides, it's like, oh, what- yeah, like a foot a year. Yeah, that's good. All the green
It
arborvitae.
didn't start yet.
They go a little this way because there's a little mud. Whatever.
So at the end of the night.
Yeah.
So I'd like to call the July 12th, 2021 Planning Board regular meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, welcome. Oh, wait, roll call. Will you please do a roll call?
Chair Lindstrom, Mr. Zarowski,
Present.
Mr. Williams,
Present.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Pinsky.
Here.
Ms. Maloney. Mr. Grasso,
Here.
Mr. Jarvis.
Yeah.
And then we have Mary Lou Christiana.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. It's nice to be back at our first regular in-person meeting. Feels a little overwhelming, but I think we'll do okay. So thanks all for coming and also for bearing with us during many months of teleconferencing, which is probably none of our strong suits. A few announcements and communications. So July 26th workshop meeting decision. I move to cancel that unless anyone has an objection. Second to that.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor or discussion, Rick?
We've found in the past that sometimes at the end of the first meeting, we need another meeting.
Should we
go
leave it to
back.
the end?
So why don't we wait till the end?
All right, so
I suggest that
I
it be
like that
amended to cancel depending upon the outcome of tonight.
I will withdraw my motion and we'll table that till the end. Just a quick reminder for everyone of how we conduct the meetings. So Maren Lindstrom here tonight, she had a family situation, so I'm filling in as the chair. And then as we go through the applications, I'll present a brief summary. Then if the applicant has anything to present, they will do so. Then we'll go around, the board members can all ask questions of the applicant. If we are going to do a seeker or a public hearing, that will happen. Then the floor will be closed to the applicant and there'll be a board discussion. And then we'll kind of decide what we want to do, summarize our next steps. And if we have a decision or findings, that will also happen at that point. And then we have a couple of public hearings on the agenda for tonight. And just a basic overview on that. When those come up, there's a sign up sheet over on the table to your right. If anyone plans on speaking, it's helpful if you sign up ahead. But then once we open those, everyone will have 7 minutes to speak. You'd be addressing the board, not directly the applicant. It's not a question and answer session. And comments that are relevant to land use are what we're looking for. Are there any trainings? There are none that I'm aware of to announce.
No, none to announce at this time.
Great. So we have minutes from our last 2 meetings ready. So for the June 14th and June 1st meeting, I have a motion to adopt those minutes.
I'll make that motion to adopt the minutes.
Second.
Okay, any discussion or any edits anyone had? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, abstentions. So the first agenda item we have is an application for a lot line improvement for Streamside Estates. Is the applicant for that here today?
Sure. You just have to fix, we've got the camera microphone, not this microphone.
Yeah, also, by the way, we are
broadcasting this meeting on YouTube so that everyone is aware, and that will then be on YouTube forever. I guess. We're just gonna wait for the IT team here. Okay, so we're just gonna keep going. So basically what this is this is a property on Cherrytown Road. And originally it came to us as a subdivision and then through some back and forths. Now it's a lot line adjustment to convey 1.3 acres from an existing 46.9 acre parcel to an adjoining 17.1 acre parcel, which contains an approved mobile home park with 16 units. And basically what this is about is making it so that the well is on the same parcel as the mobile home park. So that's what I have to present. Do you guys say anything?
That's it. We've submitted, I believe, all the documents that apparently didn't have up to date at the last meeting.
Yeah.
As well as the maps for filing. All the little details, there were some little corrections that were brought up by some of the members, there were some acreage rounding issues and stuff. That's all been cleaned up.
Yeah, and Nicole, we have all that stuff now.
Yes.
Chair,
Yeah.
do we have maps from the planning board or?
Yes, I have.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, this one around.
Thank you.
Maybe you're. So that's one.
That's the invitation.
Oops, I covered the speaker. It's not working.
Did any board members have any additional questions or maybe just want to see that?
I just want to confirm it's just that conveyance of the well and everything, so, or it was something else, but. that's not-
And are all the lot line notes are on there now? Should be. Excellent. So then, if no one has any questions, we have a decision ready, which I don't need to read, I believe, because it's a lot line. Is that right? Yeah, so we just have a certification. So I guess I need a motion to accept this lot line. Second. I'll second it. Okay, and we can just do a regular voice vote on this. All right, all in favor of approving this lot line improvement?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. So we've got your approval. I think we'll just have to make sure. And Paul, you can help find sign things. Lauren has all this by road and I don't have.
Yes, sir. We don't have the my personal.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
So
Maybe it's.
let us know when they're signed.
Might be able to sign it right before you leave.
Yeah, I'll
Oh,
try to.
it's- oh, okay.
Probably easier so we don't have to wrangle again. You may be gone before then, but then.
I don't think I'm sticking around for the last bit.
Yeah. There you go.
But unless you make it as quick as this one.
We'll see, we'll see. We'll see. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So the next agenda. 2021-10 is also a lot line improvement. It's a new application for James Tanner. And it's also on Upper Cherrytown Road in Kirkland. It's a representative from the applicant or the applicant here. Anybody here? For that one? No. So
So I just motion to table it.
Well, let me just,
Maybe then he'll-
is James Tanner or any of the representatives present? All right, well, we're gonna table that, and if they show up before we adjourn for the evening, we'll put it back on. Okay, then the third, we're going faster. The third application is planning board 2021-05. It's a major subdivision application in East Ross. Representatives. So this is, it's a lot line adjustment that's categorized by code as a major subdivision because it's a re-subdivision of a previous subdivision. Basically what's happening is we're about 4.5 acres from one parcel to another. A waiver was requested from the non-relevant portions of the subdivision code. That waiver was granted. There was already a seeker determination as unlisted uncoordinated action and then a negative declaration on our June meeting. So do you have anything you want to add?
No, I appreciate, last board to keep the public hearing open for a month. There were some issues between the landowner and a previous potential owner or purchaser. Evidently, those issues have been resolved. So we are ready for final vote this evening if the board is ready. I did bring some additional hard copy maps just because it's the first time we did it in person again.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be helpful, but if anybody has any questions.
Do board members, anyone on the board have a question?
A lot of them last meeting, so we're just waiting for them.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to open the public hearing. Oh, I don't even need a motion. All right, so I'm going to declare the public hearing open. Did anyone sign up to comment? What you heard? Okay, and I don't think we received any comments via email, right? Okay, so public hearing on Ross subdivision going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, that closed public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Oh, yeah, all right.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, public hearing is now actually closed. And we have a decision as it happens. So this is planning board decision 2021-05 for a major subdivision. Skip over some of the formalities and the documents reviewed. And I'm going to jump to the findings. So finding number 1, the planning board received zoning referral and determination letter for a major subdivision from the code enforcement office. The parcel was previously subdivided, most recently in 2005, and received a lot line improvement in 2018. Because of the previous subdivisions, the application is a re-subdivision of lands, which per 125-12 constitutes a major subdivision. The applicant's representative Patty Brooks met with the planning board and presented the subdivision map for review. The board discussed and reviewed the proposed subdivision. The planning board discussed the nature of the subdivision and determined that waivers could be given for substantially all of the required elements of a major subdivision. The planning board further noted that any further lot line adjustment for subdivisions would again constitute a re-subdivision and be treated as a major subdivision. The parcel is in the AR3 zoning district. Applicant proposes a lot line adjustment to convey plus or minus 4.52 acres from SBL 77.2-2-29.214 to SBL 77.2-2-29.215. The parcel was previously subdivided in 2002. Therefore, the application is a re-subdivision of lands, which constitutes a major subdivision. Plats are filed with Walton County Clerk, and the planning board received and reviewed deeds for both properties. The parcel is in the town of Rochester AR3 zone district. The residential agricultural district is intended to recognize and preserve the high value agricultural lands of the town while allowing for low density residential development. And a flat and rolling with 0 to 5% grades, open fields and transitional. And then if you could just confirm this, Patty, lot 1 has existing single family home with dwelling septic, lot 2 is vacant land.
That is correct.
Application was determined to meet the requirements of an unlisted, uncoordinated seeker action. A negative declaration was determined upon review. A public hearing was held. The board reviewed if the plots have safe and legal access. And it turns out that the parcels are accessed via a private road, 20-acre lane. The applicant's representative contacted the current owners of the private road, sending a letter of explanation of the proposed changes to the maps and received approval or no response from the owners. Any future extension of or alteration of the road or plat accessed by the private road shall require approval by the co-owners of the private road. And the parcel is in the AR3 zoning district. The board concludes that the 2 proposed parcels meet or exceed bulk standards requirements for AR3 zoning. Draft findings were prepared by the chair and were discussed by the planning board in public meeting at the time of adoption. Do I have a motion to adopt the findings? Yeah.
Number 4, you said 2000, you said 2002.
And number 4. It says 2005. Got it. All right. Is there a motion to adopt the findings? Motion to adopt the findings. Second. Okay. Do we need to do, we can just do a voice vote on this? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? So resolved. County board grants major subdivision conditional final approval for subdivision plan situated at 20-acre lane, Ackworth, New York. The subdivision plan dated 7/28/2020. It's approved. Is that right? Why is it 7/28? Shouldn't it be 6/28?
Yeah, the original survey was 7/28/20, but the actual, we changed the map to final today. That was the only change made to the map. So if you want to change it to July 12th, 2021, that is the final date on that.
Okay. I don't have edit access to this document. Okay. So conditions of approval, all fees due to the town of Rochester involved in this application shall be paid in full prior to the chair's signature on the final plat. The applicant shall present a final plat for signature. The plat name shall be changed from sketch to subdivision. The following plat note shall be included to clearly state on the recorded final plat map. A, private driveway shall adhere to 140-10 lot development standards. D3, private road standards. B, any future subdivision or changes to lots having access by 20-acre lane, a private road shall require, shall require the consent of all landowners having access by 20-acre lane. C, subdivision shall adhere to town of Rochester subdivision law 125-21 and 22, general site requirements. All required local, county, state, and federal permits shall be secured for the current and future use of these lands, specifically local driveway permits. Conditional final approval shall expire 180 days from this date unless the final plat is presented and signed by the chair. This period may be extended for 2 additional 90-day periods upon application to and resolution by the town of Rochester Planning Board. The town of Rochester Planning Board further grants major subdivision conditional final approval in the subdivision plan upon satisfactory completion to the condition of approval and grants the authority to the chairman to certify that the conditions have been met and review, sign, and date without further resolution at such time. Effective approval, the owner shall file in the office of Ulster County Clerk. Do I have to read all this stuff? Okay. The Ulster County Clerk such approved plat bearing the chair's signature and any other related documents within 62 days from the date of signature, or such approval shall be deemed to expire without further notice in accordance with New York State Town Law, Section 276. The owner shall have the responsibility to return 3 Ulster County Clerk certified copies of the filed plat and any other related documents to the town of Rochester Planning Board within 30 days of such findings. Do I have a motion to grant conditional final approval?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
You're good. And I assume I will get a copy of that, so I make sure that I can apply.
You gonna write it all down?
I started, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is going on.
You have to go to YouTube.
You're copied on this. Okay, so the motion carries and you're all set and you do all the things and then we'll sign.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have a printed one?
We have it right here. Patty, here's one that has everything on it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I could have made my wallet.
You're welcome.
I know, you did your job, I'm just not, I'm not well versed in this job yet. Okay, our next application, Planning Board 2021-08. Public hearing and continued application for Montalvo and Visconti. Is Terry here or any of the applicants? Second call?
Make a motion, table it.
Yeah, second, and wow, I don't even know if we have to vote on this.
No, it's just,
Yeah,
everything's noticed for 7 o'clock.
no. These are object- Okay, so next,
Anybody have a study computer?
oh, do we still have to do the public hearing? We have to come back to it. at the
Well,
end.
it's tabled, so we can come back.
So we'll come
Everybody-
back.
If they're representatives.
We can remind us. Mary Lou will help us.
Yes.
Okay, so our fifth agenda item is Planning Board 2020-05 lot line improvement and SPA for Innis. There's Nathan. Welcome. So this is a lot line improvement and then also a site plan amendment for the Innis property, basically to delete a lot line between an adjacent parcel that was acquired after the original site plan was approved, and then to amend the site plan to relocate spa building onto the parcel that was recently obtained and that will be merged with the larger existing parcel. Dean, do you have anything to share?
Well, no, that, I mean, it's as simple as all of that. And, so what we're looking for tonight is obviously to have a public hearing and our to the speaker. It's my understanding that the Australian Planning Board did not review this application.
That's our understanding also.
So, one, it's not really a significant change. And two, that their 30 days is well expired since we submitted it. I was gonna ask that, when was it submitted?
Well, there was some, I guess this happened when we were between secretaries. And my recollection and the recollection of our normal chair is that you submitted it, is that correct?
Actually, Alicia did hand deliver it to the county,
Okay.
and that was in May. And then on May 28th, we had revised the plans for our meeting. And I sent them to Rob also. I copied him on the email. And he responded to my email that'll be on our July agenda. So, which I have the copy of that email, because I was like,
Yeah.
so I know I had it.
You sent it to him, so.
This, though, it was before May 28th, because our understanding was it was gonna be on our June agenda. But we didn't make a big fuss because we knew we had to come for
Right.
the July meeting anyway. So we're like, okay, they'll meet for here, we'll get the comments, but they did not have it on their July agenda for.
Yeah, it wasn't on the agenda, and I know Mike Baden's our rep on the county planning board, and he was unaware that they received it, but I don't know, I don't know the inner workings.
And I don't know either, but it was my understanding that Alicia talked to a few people and they were like, don't worry, we'll get you on, whether they had the right submission form or whatever. And like I said, that's the copy Rob like a week later with the updated plan, and he said it would be on July.
What's the date for July?
It was.
It just happened.
Last
last
year.
week. It wasn't on there.
Have we ever, Have we ever said to the, well, the heck with it, they screwed up.
Well,
we're gonna
Oh, yeah,
do
well,
that.
and
here's
they
the
have
thing.
30 days to get back to us.
So it's beyond the 30 days.
It's beyond the 30 days. If we
You have
make
to,
a
yeah.
decision tonight, right, if you could get us a copy of the thing from, there you go, look at that. Could you fold that like a paper airplane? Send it to me.
So it seems to me that if they're beyond the 30 days, we can just,
Here's how it goes. You can. Yeah. make one get- You can make a decision. If you don't make a decision and we get something before you do, you have to consider it.
okay, so my penchant would be, look, mistakes happen, but it's a minor adjustment. The major impact is on our site plan, the town site plan. I don't think we did get comments from the planning board, also kind of planning board last time. They were incorporated, this lighting and that sort of thing. I suggest we open the
I was gonna
public
say,
hearing.
we'll see what happens and see what happens.
And see
you
what
can decide
happens.
whether you want
I think those from that. What's the implications of the idea? The idea is.
The IDA said it was fine. We got a letter from them. We also got a DOH permit. Nothing back from SHPO. We're waiting on this, which we're hoping to get before today, but then we
Right.
found out today that it wasn't. on the
And,
agenda.
you know, I do know the typical comments are, you know, lighting, signage, landscaping. The
And
other
you did make some
agency
changes to all
approvals.
that, right?
So, right, and we did, the board's already asked for that, so we've
Got it.
already removed the lighting and yes, so.
You really, okay,
Yeah.
so we can give our approval if we so choose. Whatever you do with the IDAs between you and the.
Right, the only
That's
thing
our
that
law.
they're waiting for honestly is the secret determination. So once we get that, we will submit it to them and. we're good to go.
Well, so we have to do our seeker. That's the blank seeker form.
I have one.
You have one straight.
You can sit right here.
Be gone as much as you want, be gone.
So, yeah, so the one question, and I guess this is a board discussion, and Rick, you said what you think, and Mary Lou, you're saying that the stuff was sent to Ulster County Planning Board, and they said in an email that they received it and that it'd be on the agenda, but then they didn't put it on the agenda.
They have 30 days.
We're out of we've met our requirements. And so we can do seeker without,
Well, you can do secret.
anyway,
Yeah, you can do secret.
without their comment.
It's just that you can, if you want to after the public hearing, you could make a decision tonight.
Well, that unfortunately we don't have much.
Which, right, but
Because we didn't think that we could, because we didn't have the Ulster County Planning Board comments back. So it's a bit of a circular situation.
We're in a conundrum.
Yeah,
but why don't we do secret?
but we can do seeker and then we can open the public hearing. And then we can be at least in good shape for next time. So
I have a copy of part one if you need it.
we all have that
Okay.
in our documents.
Very good.
Okay, so does anyone else have any questions?
No, we're doing with secret now, it's just for the changes that were made, the new changes that were made.
Yeah,
We
and
just-
then that allows us to open the public hearing. Okay, so will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? I'm gonna say no or small impact. 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? And I'm gonna say no or small impact. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Say no or small impact. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No or small impact. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect the existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No or small impact. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? Again, no or small impact. Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? No or small impact. or public and private wastewater treatment utilities? No or small impact. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No or small impact. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, for example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? No or small impact. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No or small impact. And will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No or small impact. So before we actually vote on that, I did recall that there was one note on your EAF. There were 3 boxes that just weren't checked. That if you could just check those,
Actually, the first one was checked.
but it was the one right after it that wasn't.
Right on 5A.
Yeah.
She thought it, Lauren thought she'd be yes, but just for that traffic, because we're only talking about the relocation.
Oh, I thought it was just that 5B should have been checked.
You mean 8? Yes, 8B and C aren't checked. Right.
There's 5B is blank. So it should be.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's checked on mine.
Oh,
Here,
weird.
I was gonna
In
say
this
that.
received version on March 29, maybe there's a newer one.
No, we've had issues with.
And
Yeah.
then 8, yeah, and then it was just A, B, and C.
What did you say that meeting? I'm seeing. Yeah.
Do you have a you have a printed copy or?
Yeah, and I did not check A, B, or C, right, because the answer to A is no, but I can definitely check it. and-
Yeah, if you could just check those and then just initial them before we finish actually doing that determination. For completeness' sake. Is that right? That's fine.
Okay, so that was it, just 5.
Yeah, it's 5, B, and then 8, B and C.
Okay.
Should have just been an initial per copy and then.
Yeah. I'm sure I have more than one copy.
I mean, it's just, it's clear it was just like a little.
Yeah.
Computer error. Okay. Oh, yeah, you're right, 5.
Yeah, that's
B is
weird,
checked On
right?
this one.
Yeah, it's not on this.
Yeah.
All right, would you just initial it? Sorry, I'm gonna slide it back.
Oh, maybe it's on the bottom, that's.
Oh, you.
That's where I checked.
Yeah,
No, we should check.
so it doesn't look like someone else checked it.
Yep.
Oh, I see. And even, would you also do it
We need
next
the
to
bank
the 5B, also just initial it, because it's different than the one we have on file. Great, thank you.
Yeah, we need the-
We need the bank sheet.
Yes.
The bank.
Okay, so now I'm gonna. What do I have to do? I should.
Make a second,
Yeah. the
second, use the second page of the.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. So we would like to check this box that it will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. We need to do a roll call before I check it. So. Nicole, would you do a-
A
motion.
Motion.
For a
no
negative.
significant or adverse impact on the, as per secret.
I'll second that motion, and Nicole, would you do the roll call vote, please?
Mr. Zarowski,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Smith. Williams, sorry. Mr. Williams, still learning.
Mr. Smith now.
And do I?
So the motion carries, so I will check this box that will not result in any adverse impacts. So now I will declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone here to comment on the Innis application? Did we receive any written comments? I don't think so. Here's this.
We just had so many applications, we only have applicants now.
Going once on Innis, going twice, 3 times. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, public hearing is closed. Unfortunately, we don't have the decision ready because of this Ulster County Planning Board situation. Yeah. Well, I was strongly urged that we reserve our workshop meeting only for discussion and workshop, but not doing public hearing decisions.
Can make the decision and then just like adopt it.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm not comfortable doing that as the vice chair just filling in. I guess the board can discuss, but I'd like to have us maintain our standard of not doing decisions. And reconsider that, I don't know what you guys think.
Just because we have the information that Ulster County Planning Board would respond in time, so.
Also, we don't have a decision prepared, so we'd be making a decision in the absence of having prepared findings.
Yeah.
Everyone's comfortable with that?
Yep.
The only, the really hard thing is, and I know there's people that will agree, Town of Hurley and Town of Marbletown are the same nights as your meeting. So if I have something on there, just to come here for a decision. that
You don't
You don't have to be here for the
So-
decision.
So you won't table it, you'll make it whether somebody's here or
Yeah,
not.
maybe send us a
Yeah.
note saying that you won't be here, but that you all like.
All right.
We would appreciate us emailing you the decision back.
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good
Okay,
night.
Nadine, good night. See
Nadine,
that.
you're not staying for the rest?
I'm sure you want me to go.
I see the representative from Montalvo has arrived. The board like to wait till the end on that or deal with that one now? Yeah, that's okay. Okay, so we're gonna go back to agenda item number 4, Montalvo. Well, we tabled you before, but now we're not gonna make you wait till that.
Well, I gotta be here for you anyhow, so we could have waited.
Well, that's the next one. We need Liz on, and she said she'll be here late.
Okay, great.
We're
We're gonna
take up
go
a
back
big
to
time.
23 minutes, let's go.
Okay.
Hey, Terry. Hey.
Okay, so this is the planning board 2021-08. It's a public hearing and continued application for the Montalvo Visconti subdivision. This is sort of similar to the Ross application in that it's a previous subdivision. It's a re-subdivision of lands, so it's therefore typed as a major subdivision, even though it's really a lot line improvement. So we met at our workshop meeting and we requested a fresh waiver from the applicant, requesting a waiver from the non-relevant, sorry, I'm just trying to pull the file. The non-relevant parts of the subdivision law. We have now received that waiver letter. So the first thing we should do is just take a look at that, everyone's look at that waiver request that's in the file. So I'm gonna move that we accept that waiver request. Is there a second on that?
No second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that passes. We also, since the last meeting, have received agreement from the non-associated party via phone call, I believe. She called in. Yeah, did you get anything
I
actually
just
signed?
ran to the post office to check the box for this evening, and it wasn't there, we had to return,
I
so.
I spoke to her.
Yeah,
And she wasn't able to get it in the mail in time for the meeting, but she had no issues with it. She's
Yeah, I
gotten it
spoke
in
to
the
her on
mail.
Thursday.
It's
and
fine.
She was gonna put it
She
in
was
the
gonna
mail.
sign it, yeah.
Is that acceptable? No, she's received it, and she said that she's okay with it. And that was just,
Well, we could make it one of the conditions, but
we can make, I think it may be,
that we got our hands on it.
yeah,
That's
A
all.
condition that.
We'll be signed until we get it.
okay. So did you have anything else you wanted to share, Penny?
No, not at this point.
Okay. Any board members have any additional questions since the last time? All right, so we need to do seeker. I don't have, no, we have to do seeker first. Another printed form, so I'm pull it up on the internet. Oh, yeah, that would be great. Because it's surprisingly not super easy to find it.
Of course not.
You got a blank one?
Who are you, Nikki?
Yeah, you got the EAF, but you have the secret.
You have the part 2 on there next, or? That's what he's looking for.
I don't think I have.
We don't need to do the full EAF, but just the short one.
It's part 2. I'm pulling it up.
Here you go.
This,
Yeah.
all right.
Keep track.
Then we'll print it out later. Okay, so everyone has their completed EAFs up. We can look at that. Oh, really? I have one actually.
Short.
Part W. Is that it?
Yeah. Oh, here we go. This way we don't.
These are not, these are not my files. I
Great.
apologize.
All right, so
Find
same,
it.
same questions as last time, guys. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with the adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? No or small impact. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? No or small impact, it's the same number of lots. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No or small impact. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a CEA? No or small impact. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No or small impact. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No or small impact. Will the proposed action impact existing public and private water supplies? No or small impact. Public or private water treatment utilities? No or small impact. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No or small impact. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, for example, wetland, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? No or small impact. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No or small impact. Will the proposed action create hazard to environmental resources or human health? No or small impact. Have a motion to issue a negative declaration on this?
So moved.
Second. I'll second. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Mr. Zarowski, Mr. Pinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Okay, so this is declared a negative declaration. Okay, so now I would like to declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone here to comment or be heard on the Montalvo Visconti application? Going once? Going twice? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so we need to go really slow on reading. Oh, one question, actually. Okay, but so basically, the zoning boundaries follow the previous lot lines along the parcels that are on 209. So the question is, what happens to the zoning districts?
The zoning districts stay the same. They now have lots that are in two different zoning districts, but in this case, they all comply with the more restrictive zoning district anyway. And then, should they want to do something, it will be Jerry's determination based on where they want to place something.
Or they could request that the boundary be moved.
They could go to
But
the,
that- that
they could
doesn't-
go to the town board if they wanted to, have that zoning change, but for our purposes,
It's not relevant.
yeah.
We don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Okay, so anyone else have any questions before we move to a decision? Did you have a printed copy of this draft decision? I have it digitally. I just need one. All right, well, this way I can, okay, so it's,
It's on, it's on the drive.
Yeah. Okay.
she puts it in the meeting.
It's in the meeting, in the meeting folder. Trying to make it easier. to find.
Okay, so we switched the folder, it's in. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll find it. That's no problem.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's like,
Go, Sam, go.
all right.
Go ahead.
Reason for request, that part we can skip over, is my understanding. Documents considered, we can also skip over and get to the findings of the planning board. Finding number one, the planning board received a zoning referral and determination letter for a major subdivision from the code enforcement officer. The parcel was previously subdivided. Because of the previous subdivision, the application is a re-subdivision of lands, which per 125-12 constitutes a major subdivision. Two, the applicant presented a preliminary and revised map showing the re-subdivision lot line adjustment with the elimination of various lot lines and changed lot lines for review. Three, parcels are in the R2 and A3 zoning districts. The applicants proposed a series of lot line adjustments and a re-subdivision of lands, pay attention carefully here, of section block lot 69.3-3-30, 69.3-3-32, 69.3-3-33, 69.3-3-35.230, and 69.3-3-35.240. Parcels are located at 22 and 28 Pine Ridge Lane, a private road, and 4779, 4785, Route 209, Accord, New York, and are in the R2 and AR3 zoning districts. All lots except SPL 69.3-3-35.230 have existing single-family residences, accessory structures, well, and septic. The lot line adjustments will bring 2 lots currently non-conforming into R2 zoning district conformation and generally increase lot sizes, conformity, and create a more logical lot layout. Not layouts. Or more logical. 4, the existing plats are filed with the Ulster County Clerk and the planning board received deeds for the parcels. 5, the current use of the parcels are residential, cleared lawn, fields, and woodlands. The town of Rochester R2 zone district, residential district, which is intended to recognize and preserve the integrity of predominantly low-density rural residential areas. The AR3 zone district is an agricultural residential district intended to recognize and preserve high-valued agricultural lands of the town while allowing for low-density residential development of the compatible nature. The proposed changes reflect the intent of the districts. 6, existing site conditions include rolling woodlands, and 4 of the 5 parcels have existing single-family dwellings with water and septic and accessory structures which are to remain within the 4 lots. The 5th lot is to remain vacant as existing with the change in the perimeter lot lines. 7, the applicant requested a waiver from the requirements of chapter 125-12 major subdivision. The planning will discuss the nature of the subdivision and determine that waivers could be given for substantially all of the required elements of the major subdivision. 8, the planning board discussed the application, the proposed changes to the lot lines, and the existing location of structures, access, well and septic, topography, and environmental habitat. The board requested that the location of potential structures, well, septic, and driveway for lot 3 be shown on the final plat, and they were added by the applicant. 9, the application was determined to meet the requirements of unlisted seeker action. A negative declaration was determined upon review. 10, the board reviewed if the proposed lot has safe and legal access. The board concludes that the lot line changes for the re-subdivided lots, SBL 69.3-3-35.230 and .240, will have adequate greater than or equal to 50-foot frontage on Pine Ridge Lane. There's no change for the owners accessing Pine Ridge Lane via the previously approved by the roadway and road maintenance agreements for the proposed reconfigured subdivision. The one owner having access from the Pine Ridge Lane that is not involved in the reconfiguration of the lot was duly contacted and no response was received, as should we say, as of there's the date. Lots having access from Route 209 are not changing driveways. The parcels are in the R2 and AR3 zoning districts. On review, the board includes that the 4 proposed the 4 proposed reconfigured parcels meet or exceed the bulk standard requirements for the R2 and AR3 zoning district. 1 parcel does not meet the bulk standards. SPL 69.3-3-30. 4 of the proposed. But it does become less non-conforming with the lot line adjustment and changes, improving the interior southeastern lot by moving it to following existing stone wall per 1.5-2A11. The board reviewed the proposed lots of its 4 water septic, 4 lots of existing well septic, and the 5th reconfigured lot shall have well and septic certified as a condition of approval. A public hearing was held. Do I have a motion to adopt the findings? You do. Second, but all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Okay, resolved. The town of Rochester Planning Board grants major subdivision conditional final approval to permitting the subdivision of land situated at 2228 4779 4785 Route 209 north. The subdivision plan dated May 27, 2021 is approved with the following conditions. 1, All fees due to the town of Rochester involving this application shall be paid in full prior to the chair's signature on the final plat. 2, any and all development shall comply with 125-21 and 125-22. 3, certification shall be provided indicating that lot 3 is capable of supporting on-site water and septic in the form of preliminary or final approval by the Ulster County Health Department or assigned by New York State licensed engineer. 4, the applicant shall present a final plat for signature. The following plat notes shall be included on the recorded final plat map. A, any further subdivision shall be treated as a major subdivision under TOR subdivision law 1.5, and 2, subdivision shall adhere to Town of Rochester subdivision law 125-21 and 22, general site requirements and subdivision design. 5, or changes to lots having access by Pine Ridge Lane private road shall require, again, shall require the consent of all landowners having access by Pine Ridge. The following plat note shall be included to clearly state on the recorded final plat map. Quote, private driveway shall adhere to 140-10 lot development standards, D3 private road standards. 6, all required local, county, state, or federal permits shall be secured for the current and future use of lands. So we want to add the consent, so that should probably go ahead of number 5.
This is the note for the receipt of the letter from.
Yeah.
The line,
So the applicant shall submit written consent. Should we say who it is from?
Sure. From the owner of lot, because we gotta look up the name and then they'll sell it tomorrow.
Do we need an SPL for that lot? How do we write it? Probably.
Do we have the?
You know the
name?
one. I have it off the top of my head.
It might be in that letter. It might be in that letter.
Alan 69.3.
You have it?
Yeah, Maureen A. Ryan. 69.3 -3.
69.3-3.3. No?
69.3-35.220.
So 69.3-3-35.220. Okay, so the applicant shall submit written consent from the owner of what we just said to amend the lot configurations on Pine Ridge Lane. So that'll be number 5. 6 will be number 7. So now after number 4, we have the applicant shall submit written consent from the owner of SPL 69.3-3-35.220 to amend the lot configuration on Pine Ridge Lane. Then the new number 6 is that anyone in the future will have to get consent of all the people on Pine Ridge.
Chairs.
Okay, so the applicant shall submit written consent from the owner of to amend the lot configuration of Pine Ridge Lane prior to the chair signing the plan. Okay, this conditional final approval shall expire 180 days from this approval date unless the final plat is presented and signed by the chair. This period may be extended for 2 additional 90-day periods upon application 2 and resolution by the Town of Rochester Planning Board. Town of Rochester Planning Board further grants subdivision conditional final approval, permitting the division of land and satisfactory completion of the conditions of approval 1, 3, 4, and 5. And grants authority to the chair to certify that the conditions have been met and review, sign, and date the plat without further resolution at such time. Effective approval, 1, the owner shall file in the office of the Ulster County Clerk such approval, plat bearing the chair's signature and any other related documents within 62 days from the date of signature, or such approval will be deemed to expire without further notice in accordance with New York State Town Law, section 276. The owner shall have the responsibility to return 3 Ulster County Clerk certified copies of that and any other related documents to the Town of Rochester Planning Board within 30 days of such filing. Do I have a motion to grant conditional final approval? Second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Carries. So you now have your approval. Thank you. Please get us the maps and then we'll. We have the waivers. Oh, the other waiver from SBL 69.3 dash.
So now here's the question. She says she's gonna send that in. She doesn't send it in. We just wrote in there that it has to be received.
Yeah, you did.
So there's my question. Is if she doesn't send it in, where does that leave the subdivision?
You just have to get her, go to her house. I don't know. I mean, we
You don't have a sign.
Maybe just, right?
Well, at the last meeting, it was, if she had a
Return
certain
by
this
time.
time, she had a certain amount of time to return the letter. If she didn't return the letter, then our obligation was met.
That's true. We did do that. Should we, what do we do now?
Can
Go
you make
amend
a
our
motion to
decision.
amend it if you'd like to?
Everyone okay? with
Sorry,
that?
I was not at that meeting.
Yeah, so we talked that if he would send certified, if he got the receipt back, so at least she received it, and then we would give him a certain.
And then she spoke up. All right, so I'm gonna move to amend the decision that we just adopted to remove the condition that we just added, which was condition 5. And maybe in the, should we also amend the finding? We should do 2 separate motions. All right, so I move that we amend the findings.
No, I
We
mean,
need to-
it wasn't received, so that's
but we didn't see- okay.
okay.
So we just, all we need
Do
to
we
do
want
is,
that to file the?
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, yeah.
we want
sure.
but we don't need to add that to the findings. We can just take that condition out. All right. So I move that we amend the decision that we just decided so that we're removing condition number 5, which was the condition we just added, having to do with receiving written consent from the owner's lot 69.3-35.2. So I'd like to move to remove that condition. Is there a second? Based on, well, it's, I mean, yeah, the motion is to remove it. The reason for
You
making the
can have
motion.
that discussion. It's-
Yeah, all right, do I have a second?
Discussion.
Awesome. All right, so the reason I'm introducing this motion is Mr. Ringler has pointed out to us in a previous meeting, we said that receipt by certified mail was acceptable, and then beyond that, we've also had verbal confirmation as attested in a public meeting by our secretary, which is good enough for me personally. More discussion on that? All right, all in favor? Aye.
I'm abstaining. I wasn't at that.
Yeah.
But you voted aye, but you voted yes. All right.
But you basically stated.
That was at the workshop.
That
was at our workshop.
Right, I know.
All right, so let's just do a roll call to make sure that we have. Well, you do a roll call.
We were not at the meeting, but you stated now.
If you voted on the minutes that were from
Yeah,
the.
you stated now.
It's in the minutes, if you're familiar, you can vote even though you weren't at.
I can check if it's in the. You remember?
It was the only thing on our workshop.
It was the only thing we talked about.
It's only been on the agenda.
Okay, so let's just do a roll call vote just to make sure it actually passes.
And Mr. Zarowski,
I'm in favor.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Jones,
Abstain.
Mr. Pinsky,
Yes.
All right, so the motion passes 4 in favor and 1 abstention. So are we good with that? All right. So I'm just gonna cross out this number 5. Okay. There's that. Okay, thank you. So we can move on to the next. We could take a,
She will be here at 8:12. I haven't passed.
Well, do we want to go back to Terry and go to number 8?
we could do that, because we need Liz for
For
6
6
and 7.
Terry, you want?
Yeah, let's do number 8. We do have an ask. Yeah. So this is planning board 2021-11. It's a subdivision application for Carmina DeSanto. What this application is. This is it's a family-owned parcel. There's a large lake on it. They're wanting to subdivide out a parcel that's part of, yeah, about a third of the new parcel will be in the lake. The proposed location of the home will be 100 feet away from the boundary of the lake. At the last meeting, the substantial part of the conversation was about the location of the septic, because the location of the septic will actually be not on the parcel, not on the same parcel as the house, and the access to the septic from the home would be through an easement to another part, to a part of an adjoint, what will be an adjoining property. So that was the basic situation. So we discussed that. We requested that there be a letter from the Department of Health stating whether or not they would be able to permit a septic with this sort of configuration. We did obtain a letter from the DOH stating that such a configuration was permissible. Anyway, that's basically the situation. Terry, do you have anything to present on this?
We also submit a letter of approval from our.
From DOH, yeah.
Right, for the system.
Oh, for the whole thing.
Yes.
But there's always said it's contingent on.
Right, contingent on the easement.
And Terry, also, I think we discussed this last time. We need the easement, but also a maintenance agreement, so we can make sure that we're really gonna get the water. I don't need specifics, but it will just say who's gonna be responsible for that.
Oh, for maintenance of the septic system.
Yeah, and the line from the well.
So the well is, they're proposing a new well. Their own new well? Yes, they're gonna be putting.
So,
their own-
so I think what the DOH is
Alright.
asking for was him to approve and look at the engineering, which you sent them. And also the easement for the septic, not for the,
Right, okay, so,
Right, they're gonna put a new well on the lot, they're not sharing wells.
right, so we just need something saying who's gonna maintain that
Right, so-
line
so-
on the septic, right? I assume if it's going to a different,
Right, so part of the septic will be the lines of distribution boxes, and that will be part of it. So that will break down the easement.
something fails,
Right.
who takes care of it? That's what I want
That'll
written
be-
in.
that'll be
I don't
written-
care which lot owner it is.
No, we'll put, that'll be right in
And-
the easement itself.
Beautiful, thank you.
Okay, does the board have any questions?
Is that the correct update?
That should be the updated map. The- You're asking, are the boundaries of the easement reflected on that map? I don't think they.
Right, they are. We didn't update the map at that prior to now. I was waiting on the dimensions from the engineer for the septic, which we just got in. So that will be shown and delineated on the final map that we brought in for signature.
So does any other board members have questions? You have another one of the secure forms. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is type this as a unlisted, uncoordinated action. So we need a motion to type it as unlisted, uncoordinated. Second for that.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Roll call, right?
For typing. Oh, sorry. Will you do a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Zarowski,
Aye.
Mr. Grasso,
Aye.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Pinsky.
Aye.
And Mr. Jones, sorry.
Aye.
Great, so it is now typed as a unlisted, uncoordinated action. So now we can go through this form that we now have memorized. So will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? Now we're respond. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of land? No or small effect. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No or small impact. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No or small impact. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No or small impact. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No or small impact. Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? Say no or small impact. Will the proposed action impact existing public or private wastewater treatment facilities? Then say no or small impact. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. Will the proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources, e.g. wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? This one, I don't know what everyone thinks on this one. I kind of feel like since it's larger, we might want to say yes on this one, but what does everyone else think? Just putting a line, yeah, so we can say no or small impact. Fair enough, I just wanted to talk about it. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No or small impact. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No or small impact. Okay, do I have a motion to?
Provided provided the document is submitted. Easement.
Yeah, that would be a condition of approval, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move that we type this as a negative, or not type it, that we declare this a negative declaration.
I'll second.
Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Zarowski,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Pinsky, Mr. Jones.
Yes.
So that carries. Okay, so now we need to, I'm going to declare open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to be heard on the Santo application? Going once? Going twice? Oh, yeah. So we did receive a letter. Dear Chair Lindstrom and planning board members, we are writing to voice support for the proposed subdivision of property located at 58 Stony Road. We appreciate the applicant's citing of the proposed building at a comfortable distance from adjacent property lines. Several of the surrounding lots, including our own, are non-compliant as to lot size and rear side yards, potentially precluding the possibility of maintaining the low-density rural residential character of the R2 zoning district, with which our properties are mapped. The proposed building's siting allows for the potential of a planted buffer to control sightlines, noise, and lighting in such a way that neighboring property owners will be minimally affected. We congratulate the applicant on what looks to be a beautiful project. Sincerely, Carolyn and Michael Maxmuck, 80 Stony Road. Are there any other comments? Okay, do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Second. Okay, all in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay. I believe that we have a draft decision. And we can do a brief. You have a printed one. Okay, we can skim over everything before findings. Findings. The planning board received zoning referral and termination letter for a minor subdivision from the code enforcement office. 2, the parcel is in the R2 zoning district. Applicant proposes the division of parcel SBL 76.4-3-35 into 2 lots. Lot 2 of ±2.06 acres and lot 1 of ±9.22 acres. The existing plat is filed with the Ulster County Clerk. 3, the current use of the parcel is residential, woodlands, and is largely covered by wetland, stream, and pond. Lot 1 has an existing single-family dwelling, accessory structures, well, and septic. Lot 2 will need well and septic. Town of Rochester R2 zone districts are low-density residential districts. This district is intended to recognize and preserve the integrity of predominantly low-density rural residential areas of the town and to protect them from incompatible uses. The applicant's representative, Terry Ringler, met with the planning board and presented the subdivision map for review. The board discussed and reviewed the proposed subdivision. The board noted that the parcel has topographical and ecological constraints with ACOE named wetlands and a DEC named trout stream, the Milk Hill, flowing to a pond, collectively which covers approximately 2/3 of the parcel. The parcel is an important area for rare aquatic plants and Audubon important bird area and an area of significant natural communities, primarily deep wetlands. Conversely, the front and northeastern side of the parcel is well developed with multiple principal residences, barns, and accessory structures, a small vineyard, and open field disturbed cultivated land. The proposed new lot 2 would have the northwestern lot line through the existing pond. The proposed location for a new principal structure on lot 2 is over 100 feet from the pond high water mark and the front and at the front yard setback of the proposed house. Proposed development, single-family residence and well, is within the well-disturbed front area of the existing parcel, leaving the valuable wetlands and water body areas. 5, the application was determined to meet the requirements of an unlisted seeker action. A negative declaration was determined upon review. 6, a public hearing was held. 7, the board reviewed if the proposed lot has safe legal access. The board concludes that proposed lot will have adequate greater than or equal to 50-foot frontage on the town highway Stony. Is it just called Stony? Stony. A driveway permit shall be required for any and all new access to the town highway as indicated on the survey map. Parcel is in the R2 zoning district. Upon review, the board concludes that the 2 proposed parcels meet or exceed the bulk standard requirements for the R2 zoning district. 9, the board reviewed if the proposed lots could support water and septic. Proposed lot 1 has existing well and septic. Proposed lot 2 cannot support well and septic and requires an easement from lot 1 for replacement of the septic on lot 1. The planning board requested approval of this easement from the New York State Department of Health and received the New York State Department of Health permit and acknowledgement approval of easement for the new lot 2 waste disposal system. Draft findings were prepared and were read and discussed by the planning board at a public meeting at the time of adoption. To adopt.
Before you, is this the latest map?
Well, that is the latest map, but there will be an additional.
Not the.
Right. There'll be a final map that's going to delineate the easement area.
Okay.
I had to wait till engineer finished the
And so the D
size, right?
So the
We
finding,
have time to update
that'll,
that.
yeah, that'll be in the conditions. Do I have a motion to approve the findings?
So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the findings have been adopted. Resolved, the town of Rochester Planning Board grants minor subdivision conditional final approval permitting the subdivision of land situated at 58. How is Stony Road spelled? Because we haven't spelled it. Is there an E?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was. I mean, we have some inconsistent signs. Doug Road, yeah. Subdivision plan dated February 28th, 2021 is approved with the following conditions.
So change, right?
Yeah, maybe we need, let's go through it and see if, yeah. So 1, all fees due to the town of Rochester involving the application shall be paid in full prior to the chair's final signature. 2, the applicant shall present a final plat for signature. The following plat shall be included on the recorded final plat map. A1, the plat is not capable of being further subdivided. B, subdivision shall adhere to TOR subdivision law 125-21 and 22, general site requirements. C, EDC stream. This property contains a New York State regulated stream in Milton. For as long as any portion of the property described in this deed is subject to regulations, Article 15, protection of waters of the Environmental Conservation Law, ECL, of the state of New York, there shall be no regulated activity as defined in Article 15 of the ECL on this property within the bed or the stream at any time without having first secured the necessary permit required pursuant to the above noted Article 15 of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. This restriction shall bind the grantees, their successors, and the signs, and shall be expressly set forth in all subsequent use of the property. Rochester Waterway. As per the code of the town of Rochester, 140-12E, each lot fronting on a named stream depicted on the United States Geological Survey maps shall include a setback of 100 feet in depth from the high water mark of such stream. No principal structure shall be located within such setback except by planning board authorization, provided other mitigating measures such as deed covenants limiting clearing near the stream are employed to protect stream quality. Condition 3. The applicant shall secure a driveway permit for the new proposed lot 2 prior to receiving a building permit. 4. The applicant shall secure a deeded easement for the proposed lot 2 septic to be placed on lot 1 as indicated on the survey map. 5. Due to the constrained nature of new lot 2, pond, wetland, stream, limited room at the yard setbacks, and 100-foot water body setback, The principal structure and access drive shall be constructed and placed specifically as indicated on the plat survey as a condition of receiving a building permit. 6. A basic stormwater pollution prevention plan shall be prepared and included in the plan set to mitigate runoff and or erosion from any construction into the pond and stream. 7, all required local, county, state, or federal permits shall be secured for the current and future use of land, specifically local driving permits.
Did we have a consultant look at this?
Well, it's the basic SWIP. It's just like a, that's like not that complicated one. It's just, I think that's just the one that states how you're going to.
It's the one that with the notes on the map,
Yeah,
that notes.
yeah.
So do we have, that's all gonna be part of the final submission of the map?
Yeah.
And is that gonna be reviewed by,
That's not the way that findings are, that's not the way it's written right now, but we could.
The regulation that's causing us to have that.
Well,
We're not disturbing Burnley Fairbanks. There's no reason for that.
well, I did not write this decision, but my understanding is just the proximity to the pond and the small size of the parcel together create the desire, in this board to just be sure to just have an extra thing in there to protect. The board can certainly discuss it.
well, it was written that way, there must have been a reason why the chair wrote it that way.
I mean, that's what she said. It's
I'm not gonna change that unless we know, which is the question of what regulation is causing that.
I think
Under the state law that requires us to prepare one, we don't meet those requirements. We're under an acre of disturbance. So there's no legal reason why we need to do that.
Yes.
I don't know why she
All
put it.
it's
It's a
a
single
well,
family,
and.
the single family
and,
home.
You get the.
Somebody-
Speed, but I don't know that we have the switch, but maybe,
Area
Very
disturbance is gonna be less than a quarter of an
yes, that erosion, that control
acre. Right. Which
is fine.
Yeah,
What's what?
We can require a sediment and, erosion control. We
All right,
don't have to go to the level.
so I think that's what was meant by
Right.
that.
Right, we'll be happy
She
to
probably
show,
just was
we'll
thinking
be
that,
happy to show some
So we can amend
self-fence
number
across
6.
the base of the pond.
The stuff you-
Right.
Yeah, so that's-
typical,
Right, it
So-
goes through a full SWIP.
So 6, so we want to amend, we want to have it say a basic erosion
Erosion and sediment control
sediment control.
and sediment control plan
will be part of the.
and shall be prepared
How about
And-
shown?
Show
Show the bottom.
final map.
prepared and shown in the final plan set. Mitigate runoff and erosion. So I wrote it so it reads, the basic erosion and sediment control plan shall be prepared and shown in the final plan set to mitigate runoff and or erosion from any construction.
Number 4. Just security easement with maintenance provision for the proposed 2 lot, I'm sorry, lot 2 septic. Based on lot 1, we have this indicated on the survey map, but it's not indicated on the survey map, and shown on the final.
As, so the applicant shall secure a deeded easement with maintenance provision. So the proposed lot 2 septic is be placed on lot 1 as shown on the final
No.
lot.
And to be shown
To be shown.
on the final.
So condition 4 now reads, the applicant shall secure a deeded easement with maintenance provisions for the proposed lot 2 septic to be placed on lot 1 to be shown on the final map. And condition 6 reads, a basic erosion, or it shouldn't say basic, a erosion and sediment control plan shall be prepared and shown in the final plan set to mitigate runoff and or erosion construction on the stream.
How about erosion into the pond and stream from any construction?
To mitigate erosion into the pond and stream from. Okay, so number 6 now reads, an erosion and sediment control plan shall be prepared and shown in the final plan set to mitigate runoff and or erosion into the pond and stream from any construction. 7, all required local, county, state, or federal permits shall be secured for the current and future use of these lands, specifically driving. This conditional final approval shall expire 180 days from this date unless the final plat is presented and signed by the chair. This period may be extended for 2 additional 90-day periods upon application to and resolution by the town of Rochester Planning Board. The town of Rochester Planning Board further grants minor subdivision conditional final approval, permitting the subdivision of lands upon satisfaction of the conditions of approval 1 and 2. Shouldn't it be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6? 1, 2,
1 through 6.
1, 1,
Let's say that.
6, and grants the authority to the chair to certify that the conditions have been met and do sign and date the plat without further resolution at such time. Effective approval, the owner shall file an office of the Ulster County Clerk such approved plat bearing the chair's signature and any other related document within 62 days of the date of the signature, or such approval shall be deemed to expire without further notice in accordance with New York State Town Law Section 276. The owner shall have the responsibility to return 3 Ulster County Clerk certified copies of the filed plat and any other related documents to the town of Rochester Planning Board within 30 days of such filing. Do I have a motion to grant conditional final approval? I'll second.
Just, so you, what's here is it was conditions of approval 1 and 2, you included 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, so we amended 1
1
through
through
6.
6.
And 6, okay.
Any other discussion? Everyone comfortable with those edits we made? Okay, great. So all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? All right, Carrie, you can go home. You do? Ellie? Oh,
We'll see you at midnight.
yeah. All right. I'd like to just take a break so everyone can. Sip of water, tea or whatever. Yeah. So it's 8:33. Come back at 8:38.
Hey, Liz.
Yeah.
We don't have a line to
Yeah.
pay it.
Have you been to these other chairs?
No, this is not taking
Angelina? Angelina? Excuse me.
Back and Steve.
Thank you so much.
You're ready to be some good fun. I'll get that there. You wanna go bring it from there? No problem. I didn't want to get here. Okay. What's your name? Nice to meet you.
You're out. Yes. All right, guys, we're back.
Extra copies, but it's not.
See you Wednesday.
Okay, thank you.
Sit someplace else.
Well, we need to organize. It's already submitted to the banks.
Call this meeting back to order. So we had, if the board is okay, we had a request from the break from the applicant to shuffle the agenda once again and put Burn after Cusack. I the applicant's requests, that'll help some people hopefully get home a little bit earlier. Help us. Okay, so right now my papers are all shuffled. Yeah. Okay, so this is planning board 2020-07. It's the minor subdivision for Susan Cusack. Here to represent the applicant wants to. So we many back and forth over time. Basically, this is a 7-lot subdivision of part of the Villa Veritas property on Upper Cherrytown Road, proposing the creation of several new lots, I believe 6 new lots for a total of 7 with the existing parcel. And there's a lot line revision on the perimeter where there was an encroachment from a neighbor with a deck. So that's all part of this application.
Can we get some maps?
This property has, it's quite a large parcel, it's 108 acres. So it has, it's all in the AR3 zoning district. The subdivision, the proposed part of the parcel that is proposed for subdivision includes FEMA 100-year floodplain, a named stream, an unnamed tributary stream. It has hydric soils, prime farmland of statewide importance. It's also in the Ulster County Ag District and contains Ulster County Habitat core lands, and it's within the Ulster County Department of Health Aquifer Zone. There's a proposal to have separate driveways for 4 of the lots, and then 2 of the lots would have a shared driveway. And all of the lots are supposed to be between 3 and 5 acres in size. Since our last time we discussed this, 2 of the driveways were combined into 1. There's been some back and forth with our consulting engineering firm, CPL. I don't believe we have a response from the last CPL letter dated June 1st. But we have circulated for comment and received OKs from the highway department, the fire department, the DEC. Though there's a little bit that we want to clear up about the limit of disturbance, just to make sure we have it clear, because it's close to the 5 acres. And if we're, it's a conversation that's come up a few times, we want to make sure we get that down. We also have scheduled for tonight a public hearing, and I know we have people here. Before we open that, we'll have to figure out, we'll have to deal with our seeker on this before we can open up the public hearing. So, yeah, so does the applicant have anything they want to present or share before we do questions from the board?
No changes since we met last time. Well, that's.
That's for the public hearing.
Yeah.
Can I get clar-
With the environmental review first.
can I get a clarification of where we are with CPL's comments?
Yeah, that would be great. Liz, can you do?
So the last, review letter that we did is dated May 26, 2021. I'm just gonna touch on whatever seems like something that's of interest that might be discussed. You know, most of what we're asking for is some environment requirements, a clear idea of tree removal, limits of disturbance. So for example, one of the comments has to do with, we now plant symbols for trees with diameters of 24 inches or more. And there's some lines, a scallop dark green line, that's labeled tree line proposed, and we're just asking for some notation to clarify that there are trees to be retained inside of that line. Let's see. We ultimately will need to do some discussion, but I think this could be addressed in the next submittal, having to do with conservation easement and how that is to be marked. What's proposed right now are the corners and angle points of the conservation easement to be marked with iron rods and 48-inch tall witness posts, and the locations just need to be shown on the plans. We need a response on that.
Locations are on plan.
They're at the angle points of R1.
Yeah, certainly.
I guess where, I guess where I'm going with this is there's still so many, very few, it sounds like, but there's still some pending items from the applicant.
Oh, there are comments to be addressed. We're at a point where most of the comments are refinements. I think we have a pretty good idea of what the project is. And with a few more, with some more clarification on the plans, I think the project is in pretty good shape, which is why I think we got to the point of deciding to set this hearing. I think, you know, I was hoping for the middle before this, but the bottom line is that on June 1st, I had provided a draft of part 2. And I can walk that in a moment. But again, most of the things here are clarification. And then I should just go ahead and move right into fully part 2.
Well, I think one of the things, and maybe this is covered in there, is just this question about the limit of disturbance.
And there, right. There are a few places where you need clarification on that. And so that's pretty much the comments, and that
Right.
kind of remains for it to be shown when we're not doing it. And also, we need to see slopes analysis map back showing what the disturbance.
Yeah, I think we're showing the limits sort of pretty clear. I don't know where to see clarification. You can be specific on that.
Well, I know that we wanted the.
Given a couple of versions of that.
In the most recent, submittal? Okay, here you go.
What is the latest date to? May 26th?
Yeah.
It's not part of the subdivision set. We're not intending on filing the slope analysis. Design.
It's just, yeah.
So
So
it's like standalone document.
the last revision on the maps is May 13th.
May 15th, so
And tree location.
So we can combine with this. We actually discussed that at the June meeting. Yes, and at that point, it's hearing, but because of
In this submittal.
it's not part of the set that we would file as approval.
Right, yeah, there should be a individually folded map. In addition to the set. Yeah, no, we had some comments on that one.
It's right here.
No, I understand, there were you expecting to see.
Where the slopes are.
All right, so that heat map informed the driveway discussions.
Yes.
And that's what caused it to combine to it.
And we did have one,
No, it wasn't done for slope analysis. That was just, they were the only two lots that made sense to have a shared driveway areas. The other ones, in order to share them, you would be great for disturbance.
there was one comment that our engineer had expressed before, and this is more of a planning board discussion, so you can decide what you do and don't want. And I'm just gonna read it. It says, while the code does not specifically require driveways to be paved, it continues to our opinion that the 10% unpaved driveway will not be maintained for emergency vehicle access without pavers. So that's the opinion of the engineer. And, you know, I think he's framing it that way because this has a lot to do with what do you know, require as a matter of practice. You know, for
So,
all- for-
I remember that discussion, and I did miss the workshop. Is he saying the entire, is that the discussion he paid?
He has recommended that from the beginning,
The entire driveway,
right,
but just
and,
a portion?
right, because he had concern about it, but, you know, he's, you know, saying, look, the code doesn't specifically require.
I don't think this board has ever required that in subdivision.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to find out. Is, you know, every community is different about these things, and I don't know that you've ever had an opportunity where you would. All right,
Yeah, we did get from,
this is the input we get.
yeah, I mean, I think probably all of us might like it if we chose to do that, but making it a requirement. I mean, I guess that's for when we have a decision. But we all probably feel like it's a good idea, but if the highway department is okay with it and the county planning board is calling it out.
The county planning board maybe knows.
They gave us a response, but they didn't say anything about that.
And the highway department is looking at where the driveway is on the road.
And he's approved all of these driveways.
Right, the
There's no problem
locations.
where we have them. Everybody's okay with the entrances. Personally, I think paving the driveway should be up to the homeowner. Wants to pave the driveway or not. Not many paved driveways in the town of Rochester. I mean, you have roads that are much longer than these and much steeper. I mean, we kept all the grades to less than 10%. I could show you driveways that are, 15, 18%, quite a few of them. When you get to 15%, that's when you start, being concerned about being steep. And
We've never reached.
All right, well, you know, we don't want to keep repeating the comment. It's not
Yeah.
something the planning board does. I think that's very.
And what is the justification for asphalt? Paved driveway?
What's the word?
Justification for paved driveway, just, I don't know.
Running off also. Right. Private roads can deteriorate.
But there would be one portion to pave it, it connects to.
That's what we're talking about.
No, actually, this comment is talking about the full driveway. That's why I asked.
Or the acre. I think that's a question that, clearly the applicant is not voluntarily saying that they will do that. It's up to us when we write a decision, whether and if we want to require that.
And I think of those as two different issues, so the entirety of the paved on the driveway has to do with making sure you're satisfied that emergency vehicles will have a driveway in good condition. It sounds like in general that requiring a paved driveway is something that's done in that Rochester. That's
I
fine.
know on a
It's not
state,
in your code.
road, you have to have 20 feet of pavement. Access.
Right.
And well, you have to pave the driveway within the right of way, up to the right of way line, which is typically 20 feet. That's what the code says. So nothing,
We don't have.
No, and the reason now going to the paved acre, which I look at as a different thing, is because in a rural area, you have a lot of paved driveways. You have, some gravel spillage onto the roadway, whether it's from plowing cars coming, going in and out of the driveway. And the only concern there is anybody traveling along the roadway, hitting the brakes and the ground there is going to have some skidding issues. So that is the piece of recommend. So that.
And I might point out that we made the I'm sure that detail.
Okay,
So see, what we don't want to agree to is requiring all these lot owners to pave the whole driveway, but nobody else in the town has that requirement.
Yeah, we're good on this question.
What's the saying? Stop digging.
Well, it's an urban, if you're in an urban area,
I don't think.
it will drive.
I think we're all on the same page here. So Liz, is there anything else that you wanted to go over from the review letter, of just things you want to call out to make sure we get addressed?
Really, I think it's all stuff that is gonna make sense.
Just, yeah.
Mr. Medlock's office, and, just tidying up some of these issues.
So then the next thing is we did get today, the Ulster County Planning Board response, which everyone should have in their drive. Barry, did you get that? Okay, so I'm just gonna read that quickly. So
What was the date on it, sir?
it came in just today. It's in the CPL memo folder. It should be like the first or second thing. So summary, the applicant's proposing to subdivide the parcel into 7 lots with 6 designated for single family residential use, while the 7th is renamed as a 77-acre parcel. Project is located off Ridgeview and Portray Town Road in the zoning district and within Ulster County Ag District number 3. Recommendations. Health Department required mod, final approval of proposed septic systems in 100% reserve areas is a condition of approval. They always put that, we always do it anyway. And then this one is the more significant one, stormwater. Greater than an acre of disturbance has been indicated on the full EAF, yet a stormwater pollution prevention plan and erosion and sediment control plan were not submitted for review as part of the full statement requirements. Only a typical erosion and sediment control plan was submitted for board review. The Ulster County Planning Board does note that each single family home has been designed with a driveway with a maximum slope of 10% and has had a turnaround included as part of its design for emergency response vehicles. Required modification. A full statement should include all the reports and data requested for a board to make seeker determination. The SWIP and erosion control plan should at minimum be reviewed by the local planning board and the town engineer, as well as be submitted to the county planning board for review. So that's the required modification from the county. So.
And are they saying they're recommending that as part of the approval? But they're specifying that it's.
Yeah, and this is, we're in a little bit of a conundrum because we had to refer this to the Ulster County Planning Board before we could open our public comment. We scheduled our public comment for 30 days after we submitted to Ulster County Planning Board. We also have to do seeker before we can open public comment, but we've already noticed the public hearing, so we have to do the public hearing. But we also have to do seeker, and then also the county saying you can't do seeker until you get this additional document.
You can do seeker,
So,
and you can always amend seeker later.
So on the
If you need
advice
to.
of our council,
Well, make the same argument I made in the past too on the solar and sun control. These lots are being sold to people who are gonna look at custom houses, and although they'll generally do where they are, the septic plans are all approved. They're gonna have their own little shape and modifications that would affect scale soil and sediment control plan. And that's why we put together a set of generic plans that show what the standards are and what the requirements are. And it's the same one that I brought to many other planning boards in the county that have no problem at all with it. It's acceptable standards. So the requirements are in here. This board feels that it's even more of an urgent issue. One of the things you could do is simply require each building permit, as each building permit is applied for, that it includes a specific solar and sediment control plan.
And you also do have grading on.
I do
have
show the
soil
details. So
and
for them to say I
tracks.
didn't give them plans, I think is, maybe they didn't have
You
that
have a
sheet.
limited disturbance.
information.
Well, it's important,
Yeah.
that's.
I don't know whether we want to talk about it now or after we open the public hearing, but it was the chair one of those.
Well, I mean, I think it's something we have to discuss because we're getting conflicting guidance from different. We're also bound a little bit by, we've noticed and scheduled a public hearing. Our council is advised that we can proceed with seeker so that we can open the public hearing. And then if information comes that leads us to want to modify our seeker, we can always reopen that.
Yeah.
I think there's a separate, I don't read this required modification as we have to have received before we do seeker. I read it as they're requiring us to either do this or overrule them before we do a final decision. So I think in the immediate term, what we can do is go through seeker, and Liz has prepared a draft seeker, which we can go through. Then we can open the public hearing, listen to the people who I believe are here to speak on this tonight. Then we can leave the public hearing open for our next meeting, and then we can discuss whether we want to follow the Ulster County Planning Board requirements or whether we want to overrule them.
And just so you know, I mean, we've asked for calculations just to
Right.
support whatever's shown. So,
Right.
and when I did parts 2 and 3, it was based on seeing the grading, limited disturbance,
Right.
proposed, measures that are shown.
I know, I'll certainly be interested in what your firm and you have to say about whether these Ulster County, well, I mean, they're saying basically have something prepared so that you can look at it. So I think that's something we can discuss after.
But if not to hold up the public hearing, but, so what I'm hearing you say is the applicant's representative has satisfied you in terms of delineating what the disturbance is going to be, or protections to prevent any major environment, et cetera, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And I also thought that one of the things that we're going to ask for is that it must be built, these must be built as per the site plan. So to the comment, they may make modifications, and they make modifications instead of, it might be 6,000 square feet versus 1,000 square feet. But as far as the lines of disturbance or the areas of disturbance, as far as the driveway and the specific placement of it, which is where a lot of the disturbance will occur, going to insist of, the discussion is to insist that it be drawn to the specs presented on the plans. Is that, am I making it up? Or
Yeah, that's advice.
So in my mind, that for the county to say you need a square,
It's, I don't
you're
know
not gonna
how
disturb,
much.
you're not gonna disturb the back portion, right? There's gonna be conservation, uses. It can't go in. It can't go in there, but you're not gonna put the septic in there, you're not gonna put the playground in there.
Need a helicopter. I think part of it is that there's this question of the limit of disturbance for the total project. And I mean, maybe now, Liz, you guys are satisfied at where that comes in. We've had different numbers throughout, like initially it was 5 acres and then it's come down. And I think part of maybe I don't want to speak for the county, but one thing that we've been discussing in the board prior to these county comments was whether or not the amount of disturbed land was big enough for us to want to ask for this anyway. And we were on the fence about that. And then the county came in and said, ask for it, and they're requiring us to ask for it. So now we have to either decide, like our default posture is to do what they're saying. And if we don't want to do what they're saying, we have to
And can I point out, that we've never had 5 acres of disturbance. We had the question from the consultant that it could get up to 5 acres and over, that was in one of the comment letters. But we've never showed anything. It's like 3.5 acres, I believe. Maybe that varied a little bit with 3.9, 3.8, but it was never near 5 acres. And I've been trying to make that argument through the whole thing, that we'll never hit that threshold to where we need to do a full stormwater pollution prevention plan.
And haven't we dropped a lot since then?
No, we did not drop a lot. We made very little change since the first application.
But we had more detail. and I
Oh, we did
think
have
that
it. You're
helped.
right. We did drop a lot.
That's
So
right.
that was the client when she said, oh, I didn't realize that lot was gonna be all the way over. I don't want it that close. So we took
Disturb
a
my
lot out.
pond, so I like,
Sure.
people walk around the pond.
Keep more privacy.
So I guess the conundrum, keep using that word, is, cool word. Since you're gonna sell these off separately, what's the assurance? And I see the plans, I see the lines of disturbance, what you put on the map in terms of what it really won't be. You sell them all separately, they're, what are we up to, 6 lots to 6 different individuals, and they decide that they screw them in.
Well,
the
they
contract
have
says-
a code enforcement officer who enforces that.
And we do have a code enforcement officer who's, he's like a one-armed wolf with all the stuff that he's doing, so.
For now, let's do the seeker, let's do the public hearing, and I think this question is one that we can discuss.
It's been a question from the get-go, but the project team has provided more and more information and plans, which made it easier to see.
So I have never, we already typed this. Yes, as unlisted, uncoordinated action. I believe that we already typed that. We just typed it again.
That was in June 1st you did that.
We did type it on June 1st.
Yes, Lucy and I.
Then we definitely did. So just to confirm for everyone, it's a type, it's an unlisted, uncoordinated action. So I've never done, yeah, Liz, you can just.
I said,
It said that the Mary Lou recommended it's coordinated, though it's on listed.
So Liz, you have the.
coordinated or on board?
It says project
Why
is
did I say-
unlisted and uncoordinated action, but Mary Lou recommended uncoordinated review.
I thought you said I recommended coordinated.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I looked beyond.
I can't, was it that, what was I doing that night?
So we have the draft. All right, you did the, go ahead, yeah, you, please lead us. Liz.
Okay, so basically on June 1st, I had provided full environmental assessment form part 2, which basically lists a bunch of categories, as you know, of different types of potential impacts in the project. And so I prepared a draft, and it's obviously for the planning board to decide, if they agree with the draft or if they want some changes. So I'm gonna just walk you through the way that I prepared this. You have a choice of either marking no personal impacts under each area or moderate to large. And what I've done is they're all no to small impacts. I haven't put any moderate or large impacts. And so that you can tell the difference when I mark the entire home under no or small impacts, I put an asterisk. And I'm not gonna, read every single one, but I've noted under impacts on land, construction on 15% slopes or greater as a small impact. And also, construction continuing for more than 1 year or multiple phases, potential erosion, disturbance of vegetation, land disturbance requiring stormwater management practices and erosion sedimentation control. So that's land. No impacts on geological features. I'm on page 2. Item 3, impacts on surface water are very similar, possible turbidity or erosion going into surface waters. So mark 3, that are related to sedimentation and surface waters, creating stormwater discharge points. Let's see. I'm on page 3 of 10. Impact on groundwater is small just because they have individual water supply wells. Impact on flooding is marked with a small impact, again, related to differences in drainage patterns and possible erosion. Page 4, no impacts on air, impacts on plants and animals. I marked a small impact, a reduction or degradation of habitat used by rare, threatened, or endangered, Louisiana bats. Plan notations, impact on agricultural resources is marked yes, but they were all known impacts. I release of agricultural that I'm aware of development. Impacts on aesthetic resources and historical and archaeological are both marked no impact. Open space and recreation, critical environmental areas also marked no impact. No impacts on transportation, energy. Under noise, odor, and light, bottom of page 10, at the very end, I marked a small impact, temporary noise impacts will occur, which will be mitigated by the fact that they will be temporary. No impacts on human health or consistency with community plans, and then consistency with community character, number 18 on page 10. I marked a small impact, consistent with the character. Questions or comments on part 2?
Everyone agrees with those. So then what we would do is go to the part 3, and we would read out what you wrote, explaining the EAF part 2. Is that correct? Okay. So said no moderate or large impacts were noted in the full EAF part 2. Small impacts were noted regarding land disturbance on moderate to steep slopes, disturbance that may continue for more than 1 year or occur in multiple phases, and disturbance that requires implementation of stormwater management practices and erosion sedimentation control. Plans show stormwater management practices, erosion, sedimentation control measures, and landscaping that will mitigate disturbance impacts. The plans also show limitations on disturbance and clearing, and notes on the plan showing wooded areas to be retained and trees to be preserved, which would also mitigate potential stormwater and erosion sedimentation impacts. Small surface water impacts, including the modification of existing drainage patterns, may also result from land disturbance, which would be mitigated by the above described mitigation measures as shown on the plans. The potential small impact noted about the degradation of habitat is related to the Indiana bat, for which plan notation prohibits clearing between April 1st and October 31st to protect the nesting habitat of this species. The potential for small impacts on noise was noted, given construction activities over the various project phases, which would be mitigated by the fact that these impacts would be temporary. A small impact was noted about inconsistency with the character of the existing natural landscape, needed by limitations on disturbance and clearing, and notes on the plan showing wooded areas to be retained and trees to be preserved. Upon review of the information, I just haven't done this before. So then we find that this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore environmental impact statement need not be compared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. So I would make a motion to adopt this part 2 and part 3 EAF and to issue a negative declaration. Can I have a second on that? So now we have to do a roll call vote.
Mr. Zarowski,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Pinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes. Okay, so that passes. And then the other thing we should just look at before we open the public hearing is we have a letter. Just going back to the deed restriction stuff from Collier. We just want to make sure that everyone on the board is comfortable with this letter specifying the deed restriction. I don't want to read it, but did everyone have a chance to?
It's
Where's
goes back
it?
to March.
Yeah, it's
March 4th.
2021-4-9. You're in the CPL and M&E letters folder. It's the last document in that folder. What was the date? 4/9. April 9th. And I did have a question for Mary Lou, which is just, I think this is fine. The one thing that I was confused about, and this is probably just because I'm not a lawyer, is it seems like there's interchangeable use of deed restriction and easement. And I just like, it's called an easement area, but we're doing deed restrictions. Does any of that matter? You know, Isn't it,
There's gonna be deed restrictions for the easement area.
doesn't an easement have to like have another owner, or is that just a misunderstanding on my part? Great, I love
It's,
Makes
it's
it
a
easier.
conservation easement. Oversees it.
But this is just an area that is being limited.
And Mr. Collier, the only thing I would see is, Bill. you
Yes.
have All-terrain vehicles, motorcycles, snowmobiles, mini bikes are prohibited. Can we just put all motor and the other motor vehicles? We don't know what they're gonna invent, what they're gonna invent next. Invent,
Flying saucer.
right, exactly.
So, Mary, Lou, you read this, you're happy with this?
Yeah, I'm happy with this.
A question about, is after everything's built, is on town officials allowed to proceed onto the easement to check this from time to time, like conservation committee, or for that matter,
I
the
don't
building
think it's
inspector?
easy to say, if there's a violation of this, somebody's gonna report it. It's just like anything else.
So they're not allowed to go on it.
It's somebody else's problem. I don't think that typically that is enough conservation.
Meaning for like inspection.
I think the enforcement would be very limited, like it would be, I mean, who could sue to enforce it? In other words, probably.
Other property
Yeah.
owners.
What
I
the
mean,
neighboring
when
property.
the easement itself is written, they will send out the thing, well, we have it all.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet.
Bill, do you have any, in other ones that you've done, I think the applicant turned to you because you've done these before, do towns typically,
No, the
Take
town
it
really
upon
wouldn't have
themselves
the
to check.
ability to enforce it, I don't believe.
they don't have the
But,
ability to
No,
enforce?
the, assumingly the neighbors,
Yeah,
this is
this
for,
is part of the
it's for the neighbors' protection. And they would be the ones that would be inclined to enforce it, number one. And I put in here that the prevailing party gets legal fees, so that's usually a pretty big deterrent against violating restrictions.
So,
Normally in a lawsuit, the prevailing party doesn't get legal fees, but if your neighbor, whatever, cut down 10 trees, you brought a suit against you, you're gonna win hands down, and you're also gonna get your legal fees. I think that's gonna inhibit most of the landowners from violating these terms. And they're for everyone's mutual benefit protection.
yeah, when there are restrictions on subdivision, it's generally neighbors have a cause of action. It's the other neighbors. Now, if somebody comes in to Jerry and wants to put up a building, he's gonna look at the subdivision, so you can't put that building there. It's, part of the restriction, you can't do that. So he could get involved in that way.
So this is just this is a draft, this is not.
Right, this is his
Oh, yeah.
suggested things to put in. This requested these versions.
Did we discuss about the conservation area? I discussed with Mark, some signs alerting this is. gonna be
Got that in there. Yeah. And it's noted on that. Okay, so I think we're ready to open the public hearing if the board's ready for that. So before I open it, I'll just remind everyone, you have 7 minutes. You can state your name, that's great. And you're addressing the board, it's not a Q&A. And we, comments that are germane to land use are the word. So I'm going to go ahead and declare this public hearing open. Is there anyone who would like to speak? How about you? You look here.
I'm Angelina Lara, and my other half, Gregory Glasses, and we have a home. We're neighbors of Sue Cusack, and we support her decision to do this. Well,
Thank you.
I was waiting all night just to say that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Anyone else? Okay. We have a letter? Oh.
So there are these three and
Okay.
then, one.
Oh, yes, okay, great. So this first letter is from Stephen Kelly, President and CEO of the Enfield Regional Hospital. Dear Town of Rochester Planning Board, Suzanne Cusack and Bill Veritas have been outstanding citizens of personal and as a business entity in the community for generations. On behalf of Ellenville Regional Hospital, we urge approval of the 8-lot subdivision on Upper Tarrytown Road in Swansea, New York. The subdivision has large, very desirable home sites that are carefully engineered to protect the environment, neighbors, and water resources. Thank you for your consideration. Please support and approve this application. Here's another email. This one is from Jonathan Berger. I'm sending this email in support of Sue Cusack's application for her proposed subdivision, the sale of which will help support the continuation of the Reserve Veritas Foundation, an important caregiver and employer in our community. I've known and done business with Sue for many years and can vouch for her integrity, her care, and commitment to her clients, and her support for her employees and the community. This is from Dwight Coon. Dear members of the planning board and those attending the public hearing. The members of my firm and I have been working with Suzanne and her team for over 30 years. It's really been a pleasure working with everyone at Reserve Veritas. The facility and grounds, including all the property owned by Suzanne, have always been properly maintained, and concern for the neighboring properties is a top priority. We have never experienced any issues and have given full backing of the subdivision as a called for. Although we are not a neighbor, our business with the Cusack team has involved making sure all property is well maintained for insurance purposes. From many business and inspections, everything has been in order or addressed immediately. Again, I agree with, I am for making the subdivision as proposed. Best regards. Then we received an email from Madeline Russo, as a private citizen. She says to the Town of Rochester Planning Board, I would like to submit personal comment regarding the proposed minor subdivision along Cherrytown Road. Having driven past this property nearly every day for the last 5 years, I'm very familiar with the frontage and with the surrounding area. And while I appreciate the applicant's consideration of the floodplain through a conservation easement, there is simply no scenario in which the Mombacus is sufficiently unaffected by this development. The slope analysis map submitted along with the application says more than I could with regard to the risk this poses to both the surface water and the groundwater resources on that parcel. New York Department of State partnered with the DEC and other partners to create model local laws to help local governments be more resilient to climate change and extreme weather events. And their recommendations identify 6 criteria where any one of each would prompt a subdivision applicant to submit a report evaluating the detailed environmental impacts of their project. This application has 4 of the 6. Land within the 100-year floodplain, wetlands and water courses identified and regulated by the DEC or federal government, land with a slope 15% or greater, and farmland of statewide importance. Given the Town of Rochester's unique susceptibility to flooding, as well as our dependence on groundwater for drinking water, these are crucial considerations. I am skeptical of the EAF's assertion that there will only be a total of 0.8 acres of impervious surface resulting from this development. And I would like to point out that the EAF E1A does not acknowledge the presence of wetlands, waterways on the property or adjoining properties. So it's possible there are more errors. 6 new homes, driveways, wells, and septic systems will cause a lot of disturbance on land that is plus disclosure. And the introduction of the 1,980 additional gallons of water being used and disposed of on a daily basis, in addition to that development, has severe implications for the wetlands, the Mombacus, and everyone, especially the two historic farms that are downstream. The New York Rural Water Association recommended more than 15 years ago that any project requiring 2,000 gallons per day or more should submit a hydrogeologic study to ensure that groundwater replenishment and well yields surrounding the development are not detrimentally affected. I would recommend the same for this, even though this submission estimates just short of that. Again, even just calling the road frontage of these properties can only result in raised eyebrows. It will be a lot of work if our homes on these slopes and the Mombacus is a crucial water. If our existing code allows this type of development on this land, I can only say that our code desperately needs updated. I strongly urge the planning board to request that the applicant solicit further evaluation of the environmental and groundwater impacts and resubmit for review. Thank you, Madam Russo. Okay, is there any other public that wishes to be heard on this application this evening? Okay, so I'd like to have to hold the public hearing open. Tell me if I'm doing this wrong. To hold the public hearing open until our next regularly scheduled meeting. We need to vote on that. I would like to I move that we hold the public hearing open until next August, whatever date that is.
August 9th.
August 9th.
Raise the motion, I'll second.
Okay.
Is there a reason?
Well, I mean, honestly, the biggest reason for me is that the chair suggested that I do that, and since I'm filling in, I'm inclined to be deferential to that request.
And there's
Personally, my biggest reason is.
It's gonna work out, I think, so who knows if there's gonna be a comment.
And, whatever we have, we're close, maybe. Closer to where we can. The planning board can consider.
Is there that much really that needs to be submitted?
Yes.
Just said earlier.
Yes. Yes. I don't think it's gonna be. Big deal.
There's a
But
motion.
there's enough
There's a motion.
There's a motion on the floor. I mean, we should discuss the motion.
I'm just asking if there was a reason behind it.
Well, the reason I'd like to see it open is because the onus is on the applicant to get everything in. If we close the public hearing, that onus is on us in terms of the clock is ticking. So I don't want on this project, for the clock to be ticking and want the onus to be on our consultant is telling us there's more information we need. Not that much, but let the onus be on the applicant.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the public hearing will stay open until our August 9th regular meeting.
And we also have to come up with what we're gonna do.
Yeah, so we can-
Ulster County Planning Board and their.
So I think we do owe it to the applicant to decide that now, because if we are following the Ulster County recommendations.
It was, what I wanted to try to continue to say is that I think there are too many comments remaining for these to all be conditions of approval. Right, a little bit of discretion there. The other thing is that one of our comments is kind of, one, we kind of had, we modified the comment, basically getting specific about, all right, what do we need for stormwater? And our engineers recommended very specific recommendations for calculations.
Yeah.
So that, it's not nothing. But I think the board's obvious next step, in my opinion, would be to consider some kind of inclusion conditions. We're not there yet.
Yeah. So I think that I'd like to see us just follow the recommendations of CPL and just have them directly interface with the applicant to make sure that all these things get addressed, and then we can have another submission ahead of our next meeting, which hopefully will satisfy, because I know everyone would like to have this get a decision. So I think if CPL and the applicant can liaise directly to get these final few things satisfied. That's the next step. And then I guess there's this question, and Liz and Mary Lou, I guess we should hear what you think, but about this Ulster County Planning Board requirement. About the SWIP.
I just want to thank you all.
Oh,
But my question is, we can understand that. It will continue like another public hearing like this.
yeah, well, it'd be open again, yeah. It will still
It's
be
the same
same
public hearing continued until August 9th.
But the idea is to have your office try to figure out what's needed on these things, get another sample in, turn it around, get it.
Let's do the things that we, before we have the Ulster County planner do those calculations. Before we, do you think we should do it now?
I mean, in my opinion, I don't think we need those calculations to be able to do the exact same accordingly.
Right, but we don't think that's what they were saying. They were saying that before you do the approval, you.
And I think
We
maybe
should
what-
have the calculations before we do the approval.
What I sort of, it sounds like what would be good,
The question is, do we need the calculations before we determine whether or not to override the counties?
what I'd like to see, I think, and maybe what the other board members think, is if you can liaise directly with the applicant. And then if all of your firm's concerns and your concerns about erosion and stormwater are addressed to your satisfaction, then personally, I'd be inclined to overrule the county. But if you feel after you've done back and forth and gotten the things that you're asking for, if at that point you're like, I don't know, I'm on the fence, then I think we could follow the counties.
Are you saying you need to do the override tonight?
No.
No, right, okay.
I'm
I
saying,
talked about
I
it.
think if you were like, you're definitely gonna need it no matter what, then we could let them know. What I'm sort of hearing is there's a good chance that after you guys go back and forth, that these concerns will be addressed to your satisfaction. I think the board is generally inclined to defer to your satisfaction on these next one.
Be clear, so there's no confusion.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna take a dart and try to hit a bullseye on a dartboard. Either one way or the other, whether to overrule Ulster County or not. You're our consultant.
yes.
I'm gonna depend upon you to tell us.
Right.
Look, we have enough here, and, we do have, I don't wanna. I mean, those 3 letters that we had from the people that supported it, you got 3 of the sites already sold, okay? The other letter from Madeline, who is the chair, she's running as an individual, but she's the chair of our conservation group. I don't want to just say, so what? So it kind of fits in with what Ulster County has said is, look, we need a SWIP. Now, do we or don't we? And I'm gonna look to your firm to say, you do, you don't, based upon what the applicant's engineers is telling you, if you're satisfied with it. I do want to be sensitive to what Madeline has said to us. It's an extremely sensitive environmental area.
We wouldn't be asking for these calculations if we didn't do them. It's one of those things where Greg and I talk about, are we sure now with, the stormwater improvements on the site? Maybe close, but we need the calculations to make it clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good enough.
And we're also addressing creating conservation. Addressing that as part of the years as well. Creating conservation.
Well, I think that's been addressed to, I mean.
No, I understand, but I mean, it's sort of answering to the other question.
Oh, yeah, no, there's nothing on that. So I think, is there any other board discussion questions? So I think then to summarize where we're at is the public hearing obviously is still open. Mendenbach Makers will go back and forth with CPL to just satisfy any remaining questions or points that CPL has, and then put in one more submittal which satisfies all of these. And then we're gonna be looking at CPL at the next meeting to say whether that submission has provided all the information for you to either say, look, you really do need a SWIP, or you really don't. And think you'd like to see it, that you really don't. I think that would be.
Well, I want to point out too, the state regulation is very specific as to the criteria where a SWIP is required. And if you send one in and don't meet that criteria, particularly in the amount of disturbance, they send it back. I've had it happen to me already. They won't accept it. So it's really a regulation, are we under the threshold of the regulation?
Right, and I think that's, I'm sure that will factor into Liz's analysis of like, they're gonna send it back and you're just wasting your time.
I'm sure that the Ulster County Planning Board is aware of those.
This is
So
the very
why would-
first
why
time,
would they-
this is the first time I've ever
bring
seen
this
an
up?
aspect. In fact, I'm gonna pull up Dennis Stover tomorrow and say, Dennis, do you really want to be reviewing SWIPs? They-
Because I mean, like, I'm going along with what you're saying.
I don't think they have the technical ability to, they don't have any people reviewing.
They would have asked for it, they didn't think. It's really,
Well,
it's unusual, but that was.
It's a
think at
very
this
unusual
point, we're-
request.
hopefully we'll get clarity.
Yeah.
Is it possible that they're looking at it and saying they don't agree with your statement that this is under the threshold for a SWIP? They may not be able to look at it, but they're saying, this makes the threshold. Maybe that's what they're saying.
We're gonna get a clear answer from CPL and you guys going back and forth. I think it's certainly beyond my depth to know the answer to that, so I think we're done with this. Yeah.
I'm just, they're really, the letter they're not interested in buying one.
Oh.
Because they have
We
their own
understand.
home.
I know one person that wrote a letter, I'm like, they will have nice
But they just wanted
You
to
said
get
they're
out.
gonna be
They're supporting.
They wanna
your-
let you know, I'm gonna be a responsible neighbor, and don't forget, I still live there, I'm gonna be watching all these people myself. I'm like the mother hen anyway, so I will be a responsible neighbor, and I think that's what they wanted to put them on their board. So I just want to thank you and let you know that, we care, and we love the environment, and, I mean, day one, I love the valley up here, and I love our home, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, my neighbors, Bill, Kenny.
All right, well, thank you so much. We know what we're gonna do for the next meeting, so let's go on to the next agenda item, which is the previous agenda item.
Next week, folks.
So the next application on the agenda is planning board 2020-06. It's a minor subdivision. Continued application and public hearing for Olga Byrne. We've had quite a few changes on this application since our last meeting. In the last, there's just been a bunch, so
Do we have updated things?
I think, yeah.
Okay, show me mine,
Yeah, here.
Basically, we all remember this. This started out, well, it's been through a few permutations. This is basically a new permutation where instead of it being a 3-lot subdivision, now it's down to just being a 2-lot subdivision. I think what was lot 2 has been removed from the plan. Now we just have what was lot 3 is now lot 2. And we have some CPL comments, which Liz, you should take us through, which is mostly just kind of a checklist of things to adjust on the maps. the board, one comment, yeah, and then there's maybe the only kind of two. One of the questions is, well, one thing that came up was adjusting one of the boundaries of what's now lot 2.
Yeah, that would be helpful. to get some feedback.
So the board should discuss how we feel about that. Basically, in the previous permutation, there were a lot of concerns about lot 2. Lot 2 is now gone, and lot 3 has been renamed as lot 2. But the perimeter of lot 2, where it abuts lot 1, I guess that's the northern lot line, we had some discussion about adjusting that lot line to give a little bit more flat land to lot 2.
It's kind of describing.
Right. Yeah, and whether the board, how we feel about that, especially now that lot 2 has been eliminated. But Liz, if you could maybe start up by just walking us through what's still outstanding in terms of the maps and true ups and things like that.
So that boiling down to 2 lots really eliminated a lot of concerns about disturbance on constrained. So you're down to 2 lots, and that really is a process. You also have fewer lots sharing a driveway. And then, as I was discussing, the only concern is the only concern that we possibly is, so now you have this is lot 2, lot 1, the driveway just goes through, there's access here. And there's, I'm guessing 1.3 acres of kind of unconstrained land where everything is proposed. And then the only question remains as to whether the board thinks there should be more unconstrained land here, say taking this, removing it just to get a little more lawn area, or if that's not as big of a concern to the board. And I let the comment.
First of all, created the one area, is a wooded area, and that's some of the comments you're saying too about tree removal. So we're not looking to create lawn areas here, and I don't think your code requires that. And 1.3 acres is plenty of level area to put a house, septic well, driveway.
I agree with the applicant, unless somebody really.
No, that's great. We
Well,
just wanted,
that comment,
this
that's
was
the
on
thing.
here for just clarity, because
Yeah.
we said some things in the past. And
Environmentally sound
For now,
development
now
eliminates
requiring
swarms.
big X number.
Right.
That
I'm not
question.
interested in that.
All right, so just to be totally clear, we're all okay with removing that comment. We're not concerned about that. Great, I'm not concerned if everyone else is on board with that. Great. Okay.
No more space.
Yeah,
And then the rest, honestly, I'm looking at page 2, there's some clarification on some items left over from the prior review that still apply to the proposed configuration. Let's see. Cleaning up the zoning requirements, table, some pretty minor stuff. Then I'm on page 3. 6A showing label actual existing wooded areas. No label. The site appears to be almost entirely wooded. Proposed wooded areas, no existing wooded areas to be retained. That's pretty consistent with what we did with PSAC. Then B, I had a discussion with Martin today. Because of the change, item B is showing labeling any proposed easements, and I'm not sure we need those now. It's down to-
Where are you? Oh, I can see.
yeah, I think that's no longer.
So B, 6B is no longer applicable. C regarding rights of way easements, again, not applicable anymore. Let's see. And then moving down to 6H.
I think so, like the approval box around there. On that. I was wondering, when I read this letter, I only read it today the first time, and I wondered, do you have the full set of plans?
Well, I don't, my impression is the blocks have to be on every plan.
We've never done that before, no.
So that's not. the board
Map,
doesn't do
map
that.
filing law doesn't have part of that.
Except to say one or two, okay. It was a comment.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are just things that we want to make sure, these are like i's to dot and t's to cross, so if it doesn't need to be dotted or crossed, I think just
Well,
say.
no, let's discuss that because I've practiced in 38 years in Ulster County. I've never put an approval box in every single map.
Let me ask the board, is that something you usually do or not? I haven't seen it before either.
So
But it's,
I don't know the answer. We
Take
can
that
just
one
take it
out.
off.
Where did it come from?
Did it come from Martin?
You're in turn, okay, drop it.
All right.
You do.
I will.
okay, then here's another one, soil types found on the site. Do we want that? Is that something you
Say
normally
that
ask?
one again?
Soil, show soil types found on the site. Slope analysis map shows one soil, but not all of them. But we
Yeah,
know
it should
where
be, I mean, in my opinion, it should be all of them or none of them, but I don't have a strong feeling about which. Like, if you're gonna overlay soil types, overlay all of them. If you're not gonna overlay, just take them all.
Well, maybe we don't need them at this point.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we're getting rid of the.
It's just all or none, not
Yeah, if you let me
some.
go, you might find I'm gonna get rid of one.
Okay.
Um,
I will wait my tongue.
yeah, there you go. Okay, so, show the proposed Latin parcel lines dimension, between bunches of people on the highway parcel. I think that's, isn't that pretty?
Well, we put the final map together with all.
So that's okay.
Down to the,
Yep.
we usually do that.
Okay, and then there were notes 1 through 5 that were on a previous version of sheet 1 and they're gone. They were-
Well, we had some questions about protections and limitations to things that we don't see in the regulations that we have to put forth. So I think that's what those notes are that you're talking
And if
about.
there
I don't have
are,
that old map.
like forest. Or dealt with that before. I don't know of any state or county regulation that
I
has.
think the recently,
specific. So if you guys are creating something, we need to know what that
I
is.
think that had to do in part with the
recently,
original negative declaration.
yeah, recently the board's been, and we just saw this in the previous subdivision that we just approved. We've been requesting some additional notations on the plans, which are just specific to a subdivision. If there's a particular portion that's been discussed that we're just wanting to call it out on the map. I think that's probably what that was, and I didn't go back and specifically look at what this was.
Calling it out on the map, you're adding restrictions to the homeowner's lot. I mean,
And not only that, these maps get filed in the county clerk's office, and once they're filed, they don't get reversed.
I didn't understand why you had them on a prior.
What do they
can I
say?
see what's on those? Because I don't have that on, I don't have. Oh, we'll put that on the final map. Those
Yeah.
are just your
That's
basic.
what,
That's
that's
what
all
I'm
I'm
saying.
asking
Yeah,
for, is
that's-
put those puppies
Yeah,
back
those
on.
are just your
We just
standard.
want, I think what we're saying, and with all of this, is these things that are gonna be on the final map, there's just a decently long checklist of them. We just would like to see them in another submission where it's all consistent, because it varies a bit from submission to submission. That's all. This isn't about adding new stuff,
You
it's
should have
just
taken your
about,
time a little bit longer.
okay. Were there other ones, Liz? But also, these are things, you guys can.
Right.
You guys can work out,
Well,
right?
there's item H, additional information may be requested or not. You just
Awesome,
wanna
yeah, great.
try to get whatever, has been lingering. And then we got back, we have been asking from the get-go, for notation, except I had a conversation with Lauren today about this, related to, the short EAF part 3 dated December 14, 2020, where we actually had an initial neg deck. And so that was provided, and my comments right from the get-go have said, these were notes that were requested in that. I'm not sure if it was a conditional neg deck or a neg deck.
It was a conditional like that.
Right, so it was a condition neg deck, so those are conditions to the neg deck, so
And
I
yeah,
kept
this
asking
is,
for
we
them
should
as
circle
notation
back
of
to this on the
plans.
next thing, because there's no such thing, I guess, as a conditional negative.
No, there is such thing
But
as-
that's not what we were trying to do. What we wanted to actually be doing is giving a negative declaration, and then there's gonna be some conditions in the final decision. So we actually need to reopen and talk to Mary Lou in this meeting about how.
Well, we can, I think we could just do an amendment.
Yeah.
right?
But we just need to do that.
So then my question remains, because all those things were all specified in there, I asked for them as plan notation. And there was one that Maren wanted changed, but I assumed that they were in there for a reason. They were protections.
And are these things that may change? That we may not, I don't know. I
The
don't
only
know
one
what
that
they are.
seems to have changed, well, let me, should I go through them, or is it, okay? So one of them was prohibiting the construction of structures or other improvements such as septic, access, parking, or other improvements within the 100-foot buffer area of the stream and wetlands.
But again, it's an Army Corps wetland, it doesn't require 100-foot buffer. Maren had asked us to put that on the map for design purposes, not that she was gonna add additional restrictions. Now we're talking about additional restrictions.
This is what was put on in December, that's what we're going over, is
Right,
whether
and
they're
that's
needed.
what I mean, like,
So the thing is, I mean, the thing is that,
well, I mean, I've
It's the
mentioned
town.
this in the letter a few times and there's been no response.
you know, some of the, the federal wetlands are very, very close to like state wetlands. You know, we have that wonderful-
So let's look, so in this condition negative deck from December 14th, one, the proposed subdivision on land containing significant wetlands and named DEC streams, highly sloping lands and nesting habitat for Indiana bat. The planning board shall make various conditions of approval to mitigate the effects of these resources. One, 100-foot buffer for the stream and for the wetlands, disallowing construction of primary structures and septic in the stream and wetland buffer, and deed covenants, plat notes shall be added, limited clearing of vegetation, trees, understory, and native ground cover within the buffer area.
And I broke it into a bunch of bullet points.
And then two, the speedies and SWIP will be a condition of approval to mitigate runoff and or erosion from any construction on sloping land, and grading or removing shall be limited as stated. That's what we're, yeah, this is why we're going to. And then three,
Right.
no land disturbance and or tree clearing shall be allowed between April 1st and October 1st to protect Indiana bat. And for some reason it says, and then on number 10 on the short EAF, the speedies and SWIP will be a condition of approval to mitigate runoff. So basically, there's three things on here. One is the 100-foot buffer for the streams and wetlands. Two is speedies and SWIP. And three is no land disturbance during Indiana bat time.
What about prohibiting clearing of vegetation?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the
within
Indiana.
100-foot buffer area of the stream and wetland.
Yeah, that was two.
Well, no, and part 3 has also the vegetative clearing in the core forest, kind of stuck onto the end of number 3, talking about Indiana bat.
Oh,
So
you're
we
reading
need-
from the neg deck, okay,
Yeah.
and then she had changed one of them to limiting vegetative clearing in core forest lands, limiting, not prohibiting, but limiting. As defined by New York State DEC as per the reality source.
So,
What does that mean exactly?
well, that's why we're going back to it, because we recognize that this was not how we should have done this. Because we're not actually doing a conditional negative deck. What we're trying to do is a negative deck. And that we may put some conditions on approval. So that's what we're talking about.
Condition on approval, we end up, how do we end up?
Well, so when we do a decision, we can say that we want, just like we did in the last decision, we can say we want you to write this on the map. Right.
So some of these, so I'm not sure what,
So,
Mike,
so,
you wanna wait, defer these and discuss them in detail?
You don't have to amend this.
Yeah.
No.
Public hearing.
So,
we have a public hearing.
Yeah, that's the question. We've been having an ongoing public hearing. I think tonight was even announced as a continuation of the public hearing.
It is.
yeah, can I make a suggestion to the board that we take a look at July 6th, CPL memo number 7A through F for the next meeting and decide if there are things in there you wanna drop.
Yeah,
Well, didn't we just go through that right now?
So then there's the seeker question is just, again, a little confusing to me, and we just want to make sure we're doing it right, so. I was Lauren indicated to me that we should reopen and redo the secret due to the changes.
We have talked about this, and we don't have to do that before the public
Because
hearing.
we have,
We have a secret determination at this point, and I think this is what was saying, look at those things. What I see happening tonight, and who knows, because who knows what's gonna come up at the public hearing, is you continue this public hearing, you close this public hearing. And then we have time to make the decision, and before we make the decision, we can amend this. We don't have to do that now. Right, so let's not just, we're throwing out all these things, but let's really look at it, and
It's
we'll
not
have
gonna-
something ready for you at the next meeting.
But the language will look more like what tonight it will be. You're
Right.
getting a neg deck and.
Right, we're gonna read it.
That's-
okay, so then, it sounds like we're ready to open the public hearing, declare it to be open. I'm gonna go ahead and declare it open, and reminder, you have 7 minutes. Speaking to the board, not the applicant, and land use questions are the most relevant. Anyone here, speak? Go ahead.
Me, Susan Gregg, I've been here many months. My only concern about this whole thing, and it has been from the start, I thought the meetings, the county recommended a private road versus driveway. And I don't know if that would change with one house versus two, but I'm still concerned about the water down by the road, coming down and across the road. Hopefully sometime that will be addressed, whether it be a driveway or the road. That's about all I have to say. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else you'd like to?
Brian,
Yes, sir.
I lived there all my life. The stream comes by my house. I live right across from them. And it does flood. And my father's driveway where the mill was, that was our property. And the culvert pipe needs to be replaced and it comes down and I don't want to see the road that comes up Queens Highway flooded out. Just left that way, if they're gonna put just one driveway up in there, it floods all the time. Now, all of a sudden, you're going back and saying, now you want to make different changes now. No, I know, but I'm just saying, now they're gonna make the changes. It does flood. It floods a lot there. I don't want to see my driveway right there where I come in flooded out when her Floyd came through. It flooded out, the town had to replace the culvert pipe.
It was like
It
3
needs, it needs to be looked at. That's my only concern. They have a right to build or have a house, they can't stop that. But somebody's gotta come up there and look at that. I mean, the culvert pipe is full of debris, it ain't sifting right that goes in their driveway. And that goes into the major stream. I mean, is everybody gonna use that driveway like it is? It's gonna erode the whole road out. Eventually. That's what's gonna happen. And if you don't want to put a road up in there, we're just proposing a road up in there, whatever, that's a long way to get up on the hill there. The fire department wanted a road in there. Now they're not gonna put a road?
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Going once. Going twice. And no letters came in, right? Okay, so I'm gonna move this, close the public hearing. Okay, second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So it sounds like then what we need to do is just amending seeker
And
should.
quite possibly having a decision.
Yeah. Great, and do we need, Liz, we should go through these things, these comments right now?
No, I'm
you-
suggesting on those particular ones, since it was a board decision for you guys. to go through. What I did was I took I put it
Put it
in
into comments.
several points. So let me know,
Since we're
pack
changing
it up,
points.
cross out the ones you don't like.
Got it. And then again, on the
Should,
things.
that's what I was gonna say, should we?
Yeah.
List and maybe go over this
Yeah.
ourselves? and-
Coordinate with Rich.
Before we just resubmit on maps, just have a discussion with you.
Yep.
Separately, go over this and then we'll update the maps.
Yeah, the more of these things that can just be dealt with directly, then the easier our job is in the next meeting.
That sounds good.
Okay, so that will be the next step. Public hearing is closed on this. You guys will go back and forth, and then at the next meeting, we'll try to get this. Say that we'll get it across the finish line, but hopefully, it's very close.
Maybe if there's a concern about flooding there, is it possible to let highway district-
Well, we've referred it to the highway.
So they know all that.
What's part of the challenge, and because we appreciate the feedback from the neighbors and they've sent a lot of documentation, and it is a real concern, is there's a new driveway that the up the hill neighbor is gonna be putting in to solve a kind of like who's using what driveways for what properties. There's a neighbor who was using a driveway through like through an informal, right, the Carrolls were using, and they're gonna be putting in a new driveway
For their
uphill.
Yes.
And
They're not
the
gonna use this
existing
driveway anymore.
then
But
the
this
existing
driveway is gonna
driveway,
be used for,
Just the two
it'll
lots
still be
here.
used for two homes, but there'll be a new driveway for one of the two homes.
Right, and now let me point out too, is
The
that the
Carroll.
culvert under this driveway is silted up and dilapidated and needs replacing, and that would be part of the improvements here, is to replace that culvert. So that's, yeah, it probably doesn't take a whole lot of rainfall to just clog that pipe up and then it overflows, spills into the road. No,
No, it's a
well, I
private
believe,
culvert.
I'm not sure
There's a private
what culvert the neighbor's talking about, but I can't tell you the culvert that's at this driveway, the private one, or the driveway that's there now.
are you saying the current one that the Carrolls are sharing
Yes. that
is
culvert.
the culvert that is gonna be
That
replaced?
that one is a problem, needs to be replaced.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure if the gentleman here is referring
That's
to
the
that
one,
culvert.
that's the one.
That's the one
That's
that
the
needs to
one,
be
yeah.
replaced. There's a huge culvert that goes under the road next to.
So they're
our
proposing that's
property.
gonna be
That's
fixed.
not- That's not the problem. No, that's already been replaced. Major problems there.
But, and I don't know if, I think we discussed in a previous meeting, we don't have the authority to require that directly, right?
Well,
It's
it's,
going to be a.
Flood issue.
So we can put that in our decision that it's a.
And Barry's work on that.
Yeah, and I'd recommend that you don't have that. Let's go with the culvert.
Yeah, no, we've seen it, yeah.
But is that go as part of the applicant property?
Yes.
they do.
You guys showed the change
Okay.
program.
Yes, yeah. that's what
May
I
I
said.
throw in one more thing?
Yeah.
So at this point, understanding the Carrolls are gonna, they wanna have their own day. There's like this little short area right at the end where all the driveways kind of join.
Mhm.
I don't know, I just think there are some advantages to that it could still be a shared driveway, it's just distance.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
Waving things, I'm just saying. That's all.
Well, there was some criticism from the board and the owner or the applicant approached the neighbor.
But that was before we had the extra
Well, the
lot.
neighbor said we'd much rather have our own driveway anyway.
Okay, okay, fine. That's fine.
And there's also, if you look at the map, it's the driveway for the applicant actually goes over on their land further up and then comes back.
I saw
So
that.
kind of like that, hey, we'll gonna remove ours here, you remove your. So,
great,
This was the former chairman of the planning board from the nineties.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
This is neighbor, the 1990s chairman, yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
all right.
I didn't even realize that's what it was.
So we're done with this one. We'll move on to our next application on the agenda.
Thank you all very much.
You're all here.
Much as I would love to.
Really exciting.
So it's 2021.
All I can say, you guys are being productive tonight.
Yeah.
So we're on 2021-7.
I said.
LLC, Ryan Scully, owner and applicant. Is there anyone here to represent?
They not realize.
Right, I know that. I wanted to give them, someone drove up. Is there anyone here for this application?
So.
All right, so I'm
Did
gonna.
I just give you a brief? I did have a
Before we table
conversation with the applicant. Okay.
Yeah, well, Mary Lou.
No, I think you should know that Liz has gotten them the comments. We are waiting to hear back
On the comments, all right? So the deadline for the next meeting is that is by 3:30 on the 26th. So I would recommend that you table this until your August meeting contingent upon that having the responses in.
Yeah, so then let's just say clearly, they were on the agenda for today. There's been a initial review letter from CPL issued. There's been no new submission other than a map with some Sharpie and some illegible letters and numbers. There is not a response to the CPL letter, and the applicants somehow are unaware that they were on the agenda for tonight. They're not here. Pending some new submittals so that we have something to discuss, which will be due on 7/26 at 3:30 PM. If they submit something by then, they will be on the agenda for the August meeting. Absent such submission, they will not be on the agenda for the August meeting because there will be nothing new to discuss.
So just a suggestion.
They do
It's too late.
apologize, they check to see if they
Oh,
could
you got
call
that.
in, but we don't really have the
Facility.
technology to do that during live meetings, as we discovered when we tried to do some live meetings and Zoom back in the early days. But they do apologize, they just, because comments have been back in, they did not realize they were on the agenda. So they don't want you to think they're, as my kids would say, disappearing.
And to correct, I said there were no new submissions besides the map with the Sharpie on it. They also did submit a septic permit.
Yeah, they did the health department.
For all 5 lots from the health department. So we do have that also. So we'll table that for now and we'll move on
Can I say just a couple of quick things?
on that one.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
So, Mr. Christopher Charles contacted me. And I called him back on the way here.
Mhm.
And he expressed, he says, we'll give you a response to all your comments. And I said, and you need to make a new plan submittal. And so he understood that.
He's an engineer, correct?
He's the engineer who's doing this. He said it might take a while before they can get their wetland stuff put down. The other thing, I do as a matter of practice, I always give my PDF comments and the Word comments. And normally, I think your office is the one that circulates it to the applicant representative. So I'm hoping you can send him the Word version. Because it makes it easier, I think, for applicants reps to do a response. If they don't mind.
Yeah.
It sounded like they want to make some progress, even though things. That's it.
All right, so now we'll move on. I guess we didn't table what you have.
I don't think I should table subject to them getting the consideration. You said it, but I don't know.
I'll second.
Yes, just because of the debt.
Oh, so I'm motioning to, sorry, what am I, do I need to say
You're
about
having
the
a motion
contingency of whether
to
they're?
table this and schedule it for
I
August
see.
9th contingent upon
Got
them getting the answers to the CPL comments
And
to
the
the
next-
planning office.
On the 26th at 3:30.
Exactly.
Will you state that motion as
I make a motion.
to?
To do all the things I said.
Did you all agree? All right,
I'll second that motion.
all right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
And just to
Any abstentions?
Nicole, send a carrier pigeon notice about that, send an email about that, and I would send them a letter about that, so they can't say they didn't know it had to happen about 26.
I'm gonna get something to the right.
All right.
That's the deadline.
The next,
I think you,
I think you're done.
because I did have to do something.
Yeah, Number 10 on our agenda.
Excellent.
Night.
Thank you.
Your
Dan Getman, this is a pre-application for a special use permit and site plan approval. We got a referral from the code enforcement office. Yeah, so we're here to just figure out exactly what we need. We're gonna kind of go through, unfortunately, also what was submitted, the scan of it seems to have been cut off after page 4, which is unfortunate.
I sent another by email, so that you have that.
Gave it to me
Yeah.
after I left. I didn't get a chance to open it.
But I think what would be great is if you could just quickly walk us through, and then, you know, we'll kind of let you know what kinds of things we might be looking for so that you can prepare whatever you need. Yeah.
Yep. So this is my house. I have an adjacent structure that's barn light that has a workshop in the under part, and above I built a nice dance floor. Love to dance, and it's a nice recreation and dance space. I have held different things happening, gatherings, and lots of people at times have asked about, could I use the space for this kind of a workshop, or could I do it this, that, or the other? So we've had charity events there, the dance church, that's one Sunday a month. We have a dance where a lot of local families and individuals come. We raise money for charity, some local, some national. I'm not looking to build anything additional or make any physical changes, assuming that's not required by you. I'm not looking to make money. I have not been charging for rent. It has felt to me like a community service. That has been my intention. And it, I guess, you know, the aspects of it that I guess the first question that I asked in my letter is, I didn't understand I would fall within something as a commercial space, because I'm not charging anything for rent. I don't want to be a business. I was an attorney. I've had a career. I retired. I'm not interested in running any business. I'm not interested in making money or profiting from the place. There have been folks who have wanted to use the space to, say, do a dance or movement for a charge that they do to other people. And I would, you know, I would like, if that's permitted, one of the uses permitted, then I would like to be able to do that, because some interesting people come and do workshops, and I also pay the fee. I appreciate that opportunity. So it does, you know, the commercial use says a wholesale, retail, or service business activity established to carry on trade for profit. And I don't do any trade for profit.
So how did this get to us? I guess is my first question. Like,
Yeah.
it came obviously from the code enforcement office, but you submitted something, like, how did that whole thing happen?
My understanding, based on speaking with Jerry, was that a neighbor complained about it, and he reached out to me and said, you should apply for a special use permit. So I said, I will do that. I did that in January of last year, and I raised the question. So I thought, okay, you know, maybe this wasn't required. I didn't hear anything back from Jerry,
Right.
and then the pandemic hit, and, you know, we did some Zoom things, but
now it's back. Yeah.
So it looks like, yeah, that last January, Jerry made a decision that this would be commercial recreation.
Yeah.
So it's a different definition than the commercial.
Yeah.
Which is any and all amusement and recreation uses and associated facilities and structures for sports and leisure activities on a fee basis, excluding uses which are defined elsewhere in this chapter, for example, an event venue. So maybe he's looking at the fact that other people are charging fees, saying it's a fee basis.
Yep, I
And,
think that.
and commercial recreation is allowed in this district, subject to
Special use.
the special use permit.
I went looking a little bit further in the last day or two to try to see, because it does feel like I'm not clearly,
So, yeah.
you know, so how does this get handled? I did look also at the home occupation classifications, if it is considered a business. It did seem to me that we would clearly fit under class 3 of a home occupation.
So I think,
And you have to do it the way
Yeah.
that Jerry sent it to you,
right.
is commercial recreation.
Yeah, so what I was gonna say is, I mean, just my general sense is that you're doing something that's not a big problem for anyone, and I'm inclined to kind of view this as not a big deal. Jerry was saying you need to get a special use permit, so we do have to, we have to do that. So we have to do the requirements for that. Our normal chair authorized me to offer to you to just sit and meet with her outside the meeting to just go over what would be needed to expedite that process. I can kind of list for you quickly those things. So it's the one in our code, it's 140-55 special use criteria. And then 140-15 landscaping.
140, I'm sorry.
140-15 landscaping, 140-17 parking and traffic, 140-20 general commercial standards, 140-21 signs, and then 140-45 and 46. And I'd say with these, you know, like my sense is that hand drawn, you know, to scale stuff is gonna be what the board's gonna be looking for, not hiring engineers and things like that, because it sounds like this is, a neighbor complained, Barry's like, you probably need a special use permit.
I'd like to cover the neighbor complaint. Was it, that there wasn't enough, you, in your application, say that there's two parking, there's two
Well,
parking.
on the road, maybe.
Is there park, where they parked on the road and the neighbor was complaining because they couldn't get in their driveway? Was
No.
it too noisy?
The neighbor complaints that I have been told about have been exclusively about traffic on the road and the concern that that creates unwanted traffic.
And your
I have
property, if I
been-
remember correctly, is
is
at the end,
end.
correct?
I have done everything that I know how to do to sort of beat into people's head to drive slowly. I would not in any way object to certainly reducing the speed limit. I've thought about, could we get an electric golf cart that somehow ferried people there? You know, the worst thing in the world is to feel like I am harming in some way my neighbors. That's deeply upsetting to me, not something I want to do. And I don't, you know, and at the same time, there are an awful lot of people that have loved being able to hold dances to
How
come.
many people would you say are normally in attendance or something like that?
It can
10,
It
50,
can,
100?
it can range, I would say it has ranged from 2 to 50 at the largest. Our dance church has had.
What about noise? Any noise?
I have never heard anyone complain about the noise. I have a nice sound system inside. And I have had parties outside.
And are these during the day, nighttime, mornings? Normally.
Dance church has been Sunday morning, and there is one dance community that I'm part of, the Freestyle Frolic, that has been both day and evening.
I'm just thrilled to know that when I retire, I get to dance.
This is,
So dance, please come, please
it's
come.
just
And
once, it's just once a week, once a month, once every.
so there have been 2 dances a month, the dance church on the first Sunday morning of the month, and the freestyle frolic has been the 3rd Saturday of the month. There have been, my hunch is there have been at most 2 workshops in a month, and many months there's nothing. I have received an inquiry, or I should say, I had one homeschool group that wanted to have an outdoor nature education for 6 kids. So we had something where they came down, went to the stream around Peterskill, and they learned about making, you know, how to make a fire. They learned about how to make glue from deer scat and ashes and things like that. And I have had an inquiry from a homeschool group about using the space. It's a beautiful space. I have a, you know, the land is beautiful and the space itself.
So it sounds like it's 2 to 4 events a month.
That's, I would say it has been 2. Yes, it has been 4. It has been 2.
Yeah, yeah, if you want to meet with our chair, you can set that up by emailing through Nicole. And then I think those things that I laid out, those sections of code are the ones to look at. And then the next step is just getting in the actual, you know, application to us with the fee, and then a more complete submission. But I think then we'll answer more of these questions in detail once we have.
You have like 2 separate codes. Okay. Is there a difference between the commercial event in terms of the numbers of events you can have and this one?
Commercial event space is limited to 12. Commercial recreation is not limited. And Jerry typed it as commercial recreation.
Okay, so that's not limited. So you can have.
But it's still subject to the noise and parking.
Maybe
So-
we can limit it. I don't
Yeah.
know. We have to see what it is.
Yeah,
We have to
we
see
gotta
the
go down
application.
the road.
But
But
yeah,
the
it's
noise,
not like.
parking, light, all that stuff.
Yes. Those are the things. How are you gonna?
Sure.
How are you gonna deal? How are you gonna deal with this? The noise, the problem.
Yeah, sure. I think, you know, we've always had, I think, adequate parking for what's occurred so far. And I don't see any reason why that would change.
Or sidewalk or on sidewalk.
Alongside the driveway, I have some grass lawn for weather like today or last week, but I would cancel an event if it was gonna involve that. So anyway, I looked at the signs and the stuff. I don't anticipate
Yeah,
those
we'll
things being a problem, and I'm happy to meet and look through that.
Yeah, we'll go through it once we have the more complete application and then we'll see what we come up with.
Sounds great.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Okay.
The next item is PB 2021-10, Maureen Kelly. Subdivisions pre-app. That Terry again, all right.
Get home before midnight.
Oh, he was removed, he withdrew.
Yes.
Drew was happy, yeah, well, from tonight.
For this one.
Hey,
Well,
yeah, it was
it's all.
removed from the agenda, sorry.
It has to be taken. So is this Donnie's one?
So this is,
I don't know. I have a husband currently.
I saw the address.
all right, come on now.
Gotcha.
That's gossip. Oak Bluffs, Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's where Donnie lives and his brother. It's
Martha Vineyard,
All right.
down the vineyard.
which is where Donnie lives with someone named Maureen Kelly. So, you know, Bryce.
All right, we don't know.
Now I'm curious.
You probably know.
No idea.
No idea. You know Donnie Braces?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
They're the ones who lived here their whole life. That's why I thought they were. All right, so this is a pre-app for a 2 lot subdivision. It's a pre-app, so we're gonna need, all this stuff, topo, stream, wetland, setbacks, right-of-way, driveways.
Yeah, we did a map.
Yeah, so anything we should know, so that, what Lauren said is that you offered to do the map, and she was
No, I
like,
had
do the pre-app,
But
and then we'll tell you if
we
there's
submitted
anything
the
else.
map. It's not on the map, is the topo.
Yeah.
I was up here, I saw this yesterday, I was up here looking at this.
That was one for
I mean, anything,
no, I thought we had.
anything you want
Didn't
from us?
I don't know what.
I mean, we just are gonna want, the more complete, we need the complete application.
Is this
that-
May 8th?
No,
page 7 of the.
I thought I got
Oh,
an application, old copy of Max did.
There's like a
You did?
logo
Yeah.
scan.
Right here,
Yeah, those are the ones.
these guys hanging
Those are
out.
the ones that are
Yeah.
like the real map.
That's. I'm impressed, 10:25. Oh.
Yeah, we're not
Doing
done.
really well.
Yeah, I thought I was next.
You are, but we have two
Other matters.
significant other matters.
Oh.
Yeah. One of them is what to do about zucchini.
Mine are six starts. Alright, so I told Warren was, I didn't get the topo on there yet, and that was one of the last things that I need to get on there before the submission, but since it was a pre-application instead of a regular thing, I'm not used to just yet. We have a lot more done than just a pre-application submission. Basically, the only thing that we're missing on here is topo and whatever other requirements you'd like to see on here.
The shared, yeah, we'll need the shared, well, that's not on the map, right? The shared driveway stuff.
Right, so the owner's proposing, there's plenty of lot frontage for both lots, but she doesn't want to install another driveway. So she wants to have a shared driveway, which I'm against, but that's what she'd like to have. So as her wishes, we showed the 25-foot right of way over lot 1, lot 2.
Yep.
And basically what she wants to do is, the original house is burned down, that's where the concrete slab was. So she converted the garage into a house and then put up another garage. And she has her barns and stables because she has her horses that she moves back and forth between Martha's Vineyard and here. And she wants to build a separate home with the horse corrals and still have her riding trail out around the back. That's why that lot's kind of
Goes to that shape.
yeah. So trying to meet her requirements, which she would like to keep. She doesn't intend to sell the lot currently, but for financial reasons, she wants to have that ability. So that's why she's creating the new lot and is gonna put up her own home on the new lot, and potentially rent the other lot out, the other house out until she decides to sell.
Anyone have any questions?
So it's pretty cut and dry, just need to see the topos.
That's all the stuff.
There's no wetlands, there's no rivers.
Well,
there's no
There's wet,
streams.
there is.
There is
They show
wetlands.
wetlands, but it's on. It's
Yeah, yeah.
very back corner.
Thank you.
No, just that
Look
back
in the
corner
drive.
there.
Warren's got it all.
Up one by the driveway, but it's already developed, so it's going.
There's some stuff,
Yeah, there's some little things that.
but like Terry's saying, like the place where they're talking about, there's already a house and there's already barns and a riding ring. So it's.
And where she's proposing a house is nowhere near the wetland, I mean, it's hundreds and hundreds of feet away from home.
Patrick, you have to know by default. There's a riding ring.
Yeah, there's like a little wetland kind of, yeah.
Right, it's in the front by the,
One
on
step.
the boundary,
Yeah.
by the road, but the road's already constructed, we're not proposing any new construction or change to the driveway.
All right, Anyone have anything else they need or want? No. All right, so get us the topo and the full application. Delineate the wetlands, well, you gotta do the fee. Is that already happened? Oh, it's just in the pre-app, which I assume means so what do we want to do?
It has a number. It's been-
We're just asking him for all the things. For the
That's
topo,
all
Right, so
You got it, you
if
got
that
all that.
stuff on, you'll have a sketch.
And then what, it's on the,
Yeah.
by 3:30 on
Okay,
17th.
so here's my question. So when did we start doing these pre-application things?
At the
Because
beginning of
really,
the year.
this, other than having the topo on there, we have everything in. We have
That's just.
short form EAF, we
It's
have,
just a linguistic distinction, you'll be on the next agenda.
right, but so here's my question. We have
You
everything
want
in.
to schedule a public hearing,
Yeah, I would love to.
we can't do that until we have the topo. Well, Marvin will never miss a meeting again. if I don't schedule a public
There's no reason not. There's no
hearing. We
reason
don't have
to-
the topo, we don't have the information. It's on a pre-act,
Which we've never had. This is something
we've
that.
had it all year. Last year.
So,
We've been having pre-apps since thereafter or whatever.
yeah, right, so we just did this with the last one, a month out. Technically, that was,
That's when it started.
And see, it went fast.
yeah, because we got a public hearing at the pre-app meeting.
I don't know if that's, but that had topo.
Montalvo was here months ago.
Yeah, it wasn't here.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
It was here, it just wasn't in front of us.
Well, it was here floating around.
Yeah.
It wasn't here,
All right,
but
We had your pre-app, you
Yeah.
said we need those other things, and you said you got them, so then we had your regular app.
right, which I just
So
said.
your
But we don't
pre-app
have
is
it.
the
What don't I have?
first
the
meeting.
topo.
The topo can be a consideration that the board can ask for upon the preliminary stage, so we're already ahead of that. You have
How do I
application,
get out of
you
this
have-
without scheduling?
You should know,
Yeah.
We're not scheduling.
Get us the topo with the wetlands for what. Stuff
Is there
to-
an alternate? No,
No, so
So then,
so when it's on the agenda the next time as a regular application.
I agree.
Be packed, schedule it,
Yeah,
for the-
we either don't have-
we got 2 meetings.
I'm telling you here. I had to get stuff to Marbletown, they meet the same time you guys meet, so I can't be in two places at one
You and
time.
Nadine can coordinate,
Yeah, we can't coordinate.
and one
because
of you
we have
can
different-
do the
we have
others.
Different projects, I don't work for that company.
No, you just have to
You're
have
gonna-
like
you're
a,
gonna do consultation.
right,
I don't have time for that.
You're retired, you just told me you're
No, I'm
retired.
trying to get to retirement.
oh, you're not even close to retiring.
But if we have the public hearing, then you still have to be here.
Oh, this is,
All right, so
Then you'll
moving
see.
on,
So come on.
so moving on to
let's
other
move
matters.
To the public hearing.
We can't schedule a public hearing because we don't have the information.
Have all the information.
Terry,
We can put this
at
to a vote
pre-apps,
if
we
you
don't
want,
schedule
but we
public
don't do it.
hearings, we did you a solid last
Okay,
night.
so pre-apps, I don't have to go so far as to have a full survey done, a full application,
No,
everything.
No,
I can just show up here.
and
With
so
an
here's what
application.
you wanna do,
With an
give me
idea.
your ideas if you have any.
for unexperienced applicants.
So
No, it's for
when
all
did this become a
applications.
procedure?
Yeah.
Because we never had this procedure in this
We
town.
adopted this
In
procedure
case,
at the
sure.
beginning of 2020. We had a
I was
meeting,
gonna say, we've had it a long time.
yeah, we had a
Is there an
joint,
opportunity to trump the pre-application? Meaning,
Uh,
hey, here is everything. I wanna go with-
Well,
the
this is,
thing about the
I spoke to Warren,
pre-application-
Warren said if we had everything in, it would move forward, so that's why.
but you don't have everything. It's a tautology, you're going in circles here. If you had everything.
On
in-
a minor subdivision in the code, it does not say that we have to provide topo.
Yes,
It does not.
Yes, it
It
does.
does not.
I believe it does.
It does not. I'm telling you, it
Now
doesn't.
Mary Lou's gonna look it up.
It's not a requirement for a minor subdivision in the for your first hearing, for your first meeting.
Right.
Okay, which isn't a pre-application.
I don't know how to get you, I mean, we said we're not gonna schedule it. I'm not gonna put it up for a vote, so you're just kind of stuck. I mean, we like you.
And I like you, Sam. But my point is that if I was told by Warren, if everything is in and everything is together, it would move forward.
But
So
everything
move
is
forward. But
Next meeting.
topo is not required on a minor subdivision. If it can be requested by the board,
We're requesting.
how can you request it? We haven't met yet.
No, we met for the pre-app, we're telling you what we need. You have an exceptionally good pre-app. So now at the next meeting, you'll have an exceptionally good app.
The pre-app was supposed to be, you don't even, it was supposed to be a freebie.
Yeah.
Come in.
You don't even have to
and
pay
tell you what you need.
You volunteer.
You decided you wanted
It's
to-
not freebie for
All right.
client, the client's got to pay for it.
Okay.
All right, so other matters. Courtright subdivision sightlines.
Still said that you're retiring.
My understanding of this, this is, it's on Rochester Center Road. It's the Courtright's mine property. They're trying to subdivide off a small lot. We had some questions about the driveway and also about from the I guess the DEC about whether they needed to have some sort of mine permit alterations. The mine permit alterations, the DEC doesn't care. We're fine on that. But the Courtrights are requesting that, I don't even actually understand why this is on the agenda, but my basic, they're saying, the fire department gave us a letter saying they were fine with the driveway, and so did the highway department. Do you really need to do sightlines? My answer to that is yes, you really need to do sightlines.
Go down
Curvy,
Rochester Center.
narrow.
You got so much visibility on both sides of where they're proposing the driveway. From the O'Connor property on the high side and the.
Yeah.
Therefore,
I don't know if we necessarily need the sightlines.
But we asked for them.
we
in our
we asked
last-
for every project.
Yeah,
Start,
yeah.
start making exceptions.
No, I'm
because
saying
of
you
this.
have, I mean, I understand what
Do
you're
the
saying.
sidelines.
I think they just sent the letter being like, really, you really want us to do the sidelines? And I think we're just saying, yeah, really do the sidelines.
Okay, so then if we do it on every one, we need to do it on that.
Yeah, and it's like.
I guess the question I was just saying is there is a lot of visibility, there's something of concern. But require it on every one, we need to do it on this.
That's what
Right.
Okay, so then the other matter is this, yes,
Yes.
the other matter is the town has referred to us for the third time, the STR law. Maren drafted a letter, has everyone had a chance to review her letter? So is everyone comfortable with the letter that Maren already wrote and circulated?
The revised
It's
version.
10:36, everybody's comfortable.
Everybody's comfortable.
All right, so then we're gonna send that letter. We tabled a discussion of whether or not we're having the meeting. Are we having the meeting?
Well, do we think
I
that
think we don't need it.
I don't think we need it.
any of the people who we tabled, Tanner who wasn't here?
Well, he wasn't here.
No, but
He
we
wasn't
can-
here.
So why do we have to have a meeting?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, this is something that maybe.
I would like to bring up something.
Ridgeview,
Sam, I would like to bring up something before we.
Yes, Zori.
Get their stuff.
I was here. I was today just to take a taste of the ice cream place, was it Sleeping?
Sleeping Giant.
And I noticed that the parking lot is not marked at all.
Uh-huh.
So my point is, I'd like to make a motion to write a letter to the code enforcement officer and ask him how come he doesn't follow the.
We didn't require markings on that site plan.
We did, we discussed it, it was on the site plan.
They don't have to, we didn't require them to, but I think if you, there have been complaints to the code enforcement office about that already. Yeah,
And a neighbor, I noticed neighboring property, signs everywhere.
I drive by a million times.
No
a day.
trespassing, no U-turns.
Yeah, the
They're
town
not big.
board did make no parking zones there on that one because it was a problem. But the
We
town board
discussed
did-
it at the last meeting.
And I believe there have been complaints from the neighbors, our farm field is behind there. So we either talked to all the neighbors, and I believe they have also issued, submitted complaints to the code enforcement for the same thing. My sense is that they didn't actually, they put those rocks.
Right.
I don't think the rocks were on the site plan, and I think the rocks made the parking area smaller, and I think it's an issue for Jerry. If you'd like to also send a letter, I think that'd be great.
Yeah,
I don't know that it's
I
Jerry,
don't support the,
planning board
board
acting
telling-
as the police.
right, because that's Jerry's job. and
No, but
he
you can make a
wants-
complaint,
and
you can make a
complaints.
complaint to the code
Yeah,
enforcement officer.
individually,
and he
go
can-
for
Right,
Okay.
individually.
But Mike, with spending time discussing that,
Yeah, No, I agree with that.
Absolutely, but once you make your decision, it's out of your hands and on to
Yeah.
the next.
But if you, right,
Starts
but
with
if
Jerry.
you as a private citizen wanna say, hey, I don't think this is right, then you should.
Absolutely.
Motion to adjourn?
You put a letter regarding the short-term rental law. that's
We're gonna
being
send
sent.
it, yeah, we all, I need
Trying
to
to make sure
vote
it
to
was
send
right.
it.
Yes.
I move that we send the letter that Laura drafted and circulated.
So the town board.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
I think we
Any
have to
opposed?
cancel the meeting unless we did it already.
So I also,
I'll make
was
a motion
motion to cancel the
formally
workshop
cancel.
meeting in July.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is why that doesn't, that
No,
goes in the
not
beginning,
July.
so we don't.
Oh, yeah, July.
Yes. So, all right.